All right, here we go. Welcome back to another episode of the Post Game Spread. I'm your host, as always, Blake Helm, and you are now tuning into the Rich Hill story. Couldn't be more excited to bring this to you guys. This is going to be probably our highest caliber of big league guy that we've had on thus far. Rich just finishing up a 20-year big league career, and a little secret, he might not be done. So be on the lookout for a Rich Hill comeback, part 5, part 6, whatever you want to call it. But this was an absolutely incredible conversation. The amount of knowledge this guy has, how profound he was, he blew me away. I didn't know what I was totally getting into. We didn't have a lot of communication before we did this. So blown away by what this guy has to say, how he sees the game, the little intricacies. He's such a big leaguer through and through in the best way. And this whole conversation was made possible through my good friend, Ryan O'Malley. You see the jersey behind me, who was a guest, who's a friend of mine, who was kind of like a brotherly figure to me, always looked out for me, took me under his wing when I was trying to come up in baseball too. And I used Rich on the Ryan O'Malley story, part 3, for some context on his call up and his big league, time and whatnot. And then Rich and I formed this friendship, if you will, and he agreed to come on, and it's been so incredible. So you're going to hear from Ryan Dempster on this. You're going to hear from Michael Barrett, and you're going to hear from Ryan O'Malley giving us clips, quotes, context, stories. It's beautiful. Rich Hill's story is beautiful too. 20 plus years, the amount of, he has a record for most teams played on, which is about 14, which is wild. He went through a period where he had to drop down, change his arm angle. He had to go to the bullpen. He had to go to indie ball, known for his Sandy Koufax-like hook. It's just a beautiful story. He went through a family tragedy, which we'll get into at some point, but and now he is, helping coach his son, watching some baseball out there. So it's just really cool to hear him, his thoughts on baseball, the game, what he went through. You guys are going to love this. This is going to be part 1. And I want to say before we get into it, we were having some technical difficulties on my end through the first hour and a half or so. So there's going to be a couple stops and starts in the conversation that might not make a lot of sense, but we were having internet connectivity issues. Got it all fixed. So the back 2 hours are beautiful, glitch-free. And I want to say thank you to Rich Hill for being awesome throughout that, because it was giving me a ton of anxiety as things were messing up. And I had this, big leaguer on, he gave me this opportunity. So he was an absolute big league guy to me. And I want to say thank you to him for that. So Rich Hill's story, part 1, we're going to do multiple parts. He's all in. This has absolutely been beautiful. Here we go. All right, guys, before we get started here, I want to do a special shout out section to all my sponsors. And I'm in somewhat of a unique position here because I do national stories like Rich Hill, but I also do local stories to my community and the pros and college guys that come from here. So I'm going to go through my national sponsors first and why I think you should support them. Go ahead and look up Aero Swing, Aero Bat. Absolutely love this trainer. For 10% off, use code PGS10. Head on over to aeroswing.com. Next up would be Birdman Bats. Absolutely love these guys. Their bats are art, hard maple, handcrafted, beautiful bats. Love Birdman Bats. Jack's batting gloves, the best batting gloves in the game. And then finally, Clean Fuego, one of the best throwing tools out there. Locally, let's start off with Washco Strength and Speed. This is Jared Washco, Springfield firefighter, former baseball player himself. Also, Overtime Training Academy. They're two in the same. All the pros and local guys go there. Sam Antonacci, Ben Hartle, both train there. It's the place to be if you're a local, baseball, softball player trying to come up. Body Symmetry. This is Chad Marshik. He also has trained many of the former local pros from the area, but he can also train anyone from your 90-year-old grandma to a teenager. He's awesome with nutrition. I think he's the most well-rounded trainer in the Springfield area. Bank of Springfield. This is, of course, set up through Jason Knadler and the whole arsenal of baseball players that they got over there. Bank Boldly with BOS. Love those guys. Sitco Chiropractic. This is the Sitco brothers, Casey and Kyle. Been knowing them my whole life. Really like those guys a lot. Their older brother, Ty, was a big-time baseball player here locally. Go see them for all your chiropractic needs. Love them. Glisten Heating and Air. This is Gibbs Glisten. Was a part of that Pleasant Plains, dynasty back in the day. He's got a couple young sons coming up doing their thing. He did my home HVAC system. He did my parents' HVAC system. I love that guy. I think he is amazing. Eric Easley, the realtor, former baseball dude, umpire, all things local baseball, slanging houses, awesome dude. He's been supporting the show since day one. the Office Sports Bar and Grill. This was an amazing entity that I used to go to in my younger days. The whole place is just adorned with all kinds of memorabilia, from the Springfield baseball scene, sports scene. Really cool place to go have a drink with some friends. Milner Dentistry. This is Ty Milner, former SCI baseball player, played at U of I, my dentist, keeps my teeth right. Love that guy. He wears Jordans, swaggiest dentist you'll ever meet. Hammers Radon Mitigation. This is Les Hammers, former professional football player, played at Jacksonville. Springfield Firefighters, one of my best buds. We used to be the Burley Boys. We were a truck tandem team when I was a Springfield firefighter. Next is Cardinal Cleaners. This is Adam Springer, former baseball dude. He's got a couple young sons coming up, and Ty and Bo. Adam played collegiately. Cardinal Cleaning can handle all your cleaning needs, home, residential, commercial, whatever you want. GT Performance Consulting. This is Greg Taylor, and this is like a mental strategy, mental performance entity. Greg played at Springfield High, Forest Park, Louisville, former guest. Love that guy to death. Go see him for any of your sports optimization, mental stuff. Hey, the 6 inches between your ears is what's most important. Safe House, Illinois. This is Dave House. This is the head coach at Lanphier Baseball. We played baseball together coming up. Love that guy to death. Let's see, Hudson Chiropractic. This is Seth Hudson. So this is a former teammate of mine, Murray State great, probably the greatest second baseman in Murray State history. He's now a chiropractor down in the Cape Girardeau area. He can do all your chiropractic needs. Love that guy to death. The Springfield Shamrocks Baseball and Softball Club. They are located in Overtime Training Academy, ran by Chad Carter. Just a really high-end entity here in Springfield. Walt Patton is a part of that group too. I really believe in them. I think they're doing great things, and they're obviously training around all the pros and college guys too, so that says something. Flow Yoga. This was set up by Brad and Lindsay Sellinger. Brad being a former guest, I'm a big yoga advocate, meditation advocate. This is the best place in town to go do those things. Hurwitz Enterprises. This is the Hurwitz family. I go way back with them. All 3 of the brothers played collegiately, and they've always supported local sports. So I love those guys to death. Go see them if you need any commercial property entities, things like that. Salvaggio Steel. This was sent up by John Chisholm. Salvaggio Steel has been supporting Springfield sports for as long as I can remember. You see their name on every billboard at every field, it seems like. So thank you for being a part of my movement here. And then finally, the Kaiser family. This is Ryan and Mandy. They are a baseball family. Their whole garage is turned into this like Wrigley Field kind of viewing experience, and they're all into the travel ball scene now. So I really appreciate them for all their help as well. Appreciate y'all. Enjoy the Rich Hill story. Here we go. Yeah. What's up, man?
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. You got all those, are those your jerseys? Oh man, where are you at right now? First of all.
I'm in my house, just in a room in my house with
all your jerseys. Yeah. That's amazing.
And stuff, and yeah, I got all sorts of stuff. I mean, from scorecards to like even just things I get. Like this is from 2022, like a good timing All-Star game from 2022 with the guys. And then what is this one? This has got to be something. The game that I started against the Rays, I can't quite remember it, but it's a scorecard in 22, October 3rd of 22. So I'm not 100% sure. I can't recall that. And then some Team USA games playing with some of these guys on here. Chandler Simpson, Shaw, who's up with the, I don't know if he's up with the Cubs right now. But a bunch of guys, Justin Crawford, Tim Elko, Chris Oakey. Anyway, there's a lot of guys on here that are in the big leagues that were like Drake Baldwin.
Yeah.
So anyway, some of these scorecards.
That's amazing. Yeah.
A bunch of stuff. So yeah, this one, I don't, I'm just kind of rambling on, but.
Oh no, we're good, man.
Who's this one here? This is 2015. Oh, this would have been, this was a game against, when I came back in 2015 against the Toronto Blue Jays. This is another one, September 2010. when my first game with the Red Sox. That was my
Yeah.
first game with the Red Sox out of the bullpen. And then this one here was I think I went 7 innings, 7 or 8 innings, struck out 10 or something like that. Anyway,
Oh,
so
so
it was a
cool.
good was there's just a bunch of stuff in the room that I'm slowly pulling together.
Yeah.
Um and whether it's from like baseball cards when I was younger,
Mhm.
uh to trophies when I was younger to all the way up through the big leagues. So a lot of memorabilia in the room.
Absolutely amazing, and obviously you and Edwin Jackson have the record for most teams played on in the big leagues, and he's gonna be a guest here soon. I don't know if I told you that, but
Yeah, that's awesome.
he's
I
coming
like
on here.
all I
Yeah.
like your stuff that you have behind you. That's
See
awesome.
see who's right behind me right there?
Yeah, Rhino.
Yep.
Yeah.
Had that
Yeah.
specially made. Yep, for sure.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
H
it'll
how
be
many
great to have one on.
for sure. How many, jerseys would you estimate that you have? Any idea?
You know what? I would say somewhere around 80,
Oh,
probably
man.
somewhere in there, because it's just so, with all the teams, and then, you
Yeah,
have the just as we had this past July 4th, so you have and then they started doing that with, special jerseys and selling obviously to make more money, but,
yeah.
got to keep a decent amount of them.
So
So,
cool. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
cool, man. Hey, I really appreciate you giving me some of your time here today. If you don't mind, I'll just go ahead and do my little intro here, and then we'll get right into it. Is that cool with you?
Sure. Sounds
Okay.
good.
So, all right, guys, welcome back to the post game spread. I'm going to be your host as always, Blake Helm. Can't believe this day is finally here. We got Rich Hill in the studio here with us, across from me at the computer. Been wanting to do this for a long time. We got connected through the Ryan O'Malley story, who is a close personal friend of mine, kind of like a big brother type to me. And you contributed to part 3 of the Ryan O'Malley story, and I'm sure you probably listened to some of that. And so it's really cool how each of these people that I have on, it opens up new doors to new guests. So thank you for giving me some of your time here today, brother. Our motto is a journey worth remembering, and what we do is go deep into a player's career and what they learned about themselves through the game. And we go back and talk to teammates, coaches, people like that to get clips and context and ideas. And for this one, we ended up speaking to some really special people. So we talked to Ryan O'Malley, a longtime friend, longtime roommate in the minor leagues. He had a really cool, magical stint in the big leagues. Ryan Dempster, longtime big leaguer, announcer, all-star, good guy. Michael Barrett, longtime big leaguer, all-star, your catcher for the Cubs. So we got clips and stories from all 3 of those guys. A little background about my guy, Rich Hill here, hailing from Milton, Massachusetts, via way of Milton High School, followed by a successful career at the University of Michigan for the Wolverines. Drafted 3 times before signing with the Cubs in the 5th round in 2002. Went on to have a 20-year big league career and tied with Edwin Jackson for the most teams played for, with his 14, before finally hanging them up. Have you hung them up, or is there something, you got anything that you want to announce today or anything like that?
Yeah, no, I haven't officially, first of all, thanks for having me on.
Sure, buddy.
I appreciate that. No, I haven't done that yet. It's kind of interesting because of all the years not to pitch, this was probably the year to pitch.
Why do you say
'Cause
that?
a lot of teams need pitching.
Yeah. Has anyone
I
called?
think no, no, nobody's called, and I haven't really put myself out there like I did last year,
Yeah.
uh, to go back and really been enjoying the summer with our son Bryce,
Yeah.
and watching him play and his second year on the big diamond. So it's been a lot of fun. But yeah, there's kind of a slight possibility of at after next year at 48 to come back. I know
Really?
it's funny.
It's amazing.
Yeah, just to get the shoulder cleaned out and then take next year and build back up and I look, you can only do this for so long, and I've been fortunate to be able to do it longer than most, and um
Yeah.
why not? That's my people like and whatever anybody, everybody has an opinion, but I think a lot of them have been really positive to being like, yeah, you should, like, what does it hurt if you come back and
It's amazing.
you want to play uh uh for half a season or whatever. So
Yeah.
just see what it materializes to, and
Oh,
we'll see
man.
if it
That is
comes to.
amazing. AAA, and then you got called up, but you just said that you had some things cleaned up. Did you have a surgery?
No, no, that would be the plan to do that,
Okay, gotcha.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, because I've been, kinda just grinding through it, and I don't know, at 46 and whatever, um, that it would just be nice to have a normal shoulder to wake up in the morning
sure.
too as well.
Yeah,
Aside from even pitching, you know?
yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, if you know how we get down here, we start at the very beginning of kind of your baseball journey, and we build and build and build, and kind of hear about what you learned about yourself through the game. So, with no further ado, can I jump into some questions here with you?
Sure.
Beautiful. First one would be, what is life like for you guys these days? Your family and kind of the day to day.
Yeah, really, just hanging with my family, my wife Caitlin, and our son Bryce, who's 14 and just finished 8th grade, so he's going into high school next year,
Yeah,
and loves baseball, and that's kind of as of present day right now. What is going on is just getting ready to actually head down to Florida for 5 days for him to, he's going to play some baseball down there. And that kind of uh, puts a cap a little bit to the summer
yeah,
for what he's so a second year into the big diamond. And we've been now following him around and helping out coaching a little bit with his team and with all the guys on his team trying to, you know, get them a little bit better and
yeah,
pick up some of the stuff I've been able to learn along the way for those guys that he's playing with. So, but it is funny because it is the second year that they've been on the big diamond. So,
hmm
um, that's a whole other podcast for the rush of the players to you know get bigger, faster, stronger, and
yeah,
try to microwave everything and make everything all these guys better yeah, before they're supposed to be anyway. Give it
yeah,
time. So that's what we've been doing, just hanging out as a family and, yeah, we've been able to go on some trips, the last couple of years, which has been great, and, baseball was one of them, as I were talking about earlier with one of the lineup cards of Team USA, and going down to
yeah,
Mexico and going to Japan, so that was a great experience.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's where we're at currently.
Sure. Do you have any thoughts on what is kind of the pressure cooker society of like travel baseball these days, of what it's kind of turned into? I mean, I'm sure it's night and day compared to what you grew up, doing, right?
Yeah, it is definitely, and I would say that you were probably how old are you?
I'm 41, almost 42.
You're 42, so you were right in the probably the early beginning part of the AAU world, I
Yeah,
would say.
yeah,
Um, and that was kind of, I guess it had just started when I was a senior in high school, where there were only a couple of teams. I think there were maybe 2 or 3 teams in Massachusetts, and now there's over 350. Um, so,
yeah,
and it could be more than that, but it's not so much the number of teams or, the AAU, or I don't even know if you want to call it AAU or perfect game or whatever, whoever's, it comes down to the coaching
yeah,
and, the people who are running the organization and the care that they have about the players as opposed to, the money. Um, that's what I've seen. And we're fortunate we're part of a program that has, great coaches and really good people around it that care about the players. But from my viewpoint and what I have seen as I'm continue to gain knowledge and putting this kind of resume together of what I'm seeing is that everybody's players are getting to their peak faster,
yeah,
but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be mentally ready and I'm going to jump to the big leagues. They're not mentally ready for the major leagues.
sure.
I think players are getting to their peak faster, uh, and in a way of there's a lot of like everybody wants to say moving parts or um, just the ability to be able to have the ability to have sustainability at the major league level takes the work ethic and the consistency and the availability of being able to be healthy and
Yeah.
and have that staying power. and a lot of guys don't anymore because everybody wants to, you know, I don't know. We've seen it in a couple of issues or incidents that have happened throughout the major leagues, and um, whether that's your now common place of a bat flip or the pitcher yelling at the hitter, where you're seeing a guy that has maybe I don't know 600 at bats in the big leagues, or the other guy has 150 innings in the big leagues. They think they've arrived,
Yeah.
and they think that this is going to be forever, and then all of a sudden injury comes in, poor performances come in. I can't handle success. I don't know how to handle failure. So,
Mm.
a lot of the stuff that intervenes without being prepared for it, I think is one of the major issues that's happening
Oh, wow.
um, throughout the game of baseball. And that's not only, it's a trickle down effect from the big leagues to the minor leagues to college to high school to, youth.
Yeah.
And that's where the coaches who, in my opinion, have the ability to see down the road and understand what it takes to have a successful career, or and again, defining career in the way I look at it is being able to play varsity baseball. Because if
Uh-huh.
you can play after varsity in high school, that's pretty damn good. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
As
Yeah.
far as being able to say, like, okay, the percentages say that, I and this is, you take 10,000 kids on a field, one of them is going to have a chance to play in the big leagues. One out of
Yeah.
10,000. I mean, that, and to me, building the skills and the preparation for the player on how to handle those pieces of adversity, as I talked about a minute ago, is the key to success for their longevity
Oh,
in
man.
baseball or in life.
Yeah.
Um, so that's I there's a lot of stuff that I see and a lot of things that are happening where you're having the misinformation or the misunderstanding of the long game, and knowing that uh, it's not about what you're doing at 14, 15, 16, 17. It's kind of after that fact of what
Yeah.
have you been doing to put yourself in the best possible position to succeed.
Man, that was so eloquently put. Wow. That was way more of an answer than I thought I was going to get. Beautiful, Rich. That was so cool.
Honestly, you could do multiple podcasts on it
Yes,
and
you
interview
could.
the guys that you interviewed with, with the guys that you talked, all the guys that you talked about, because getting there is just a windy road, and as they say, write it down in pencil because you're gonna have to erase a lot of it and redo it. The guys that are successful and going back to the major league level have small peaks and valleys. If they go 4 for 4, that's great. They got to show up and go to work the next day. If they go 0 for 4, that's great. They show up and go to work the next day. And learning that from being around Hall of Famers and All Stars and MVPs and Cy Youngs and the best in the game to ever do it. Those guys who have those small peaks and those small valleys is how they handle it. They don't look at it as, yeah, it's just, whatever happened is behind them and they're moving forward. They stay in the moment so well.
Yeah.
That I was fortunate to be able to have whatever they were doing emanate off of them, so I could, you know, uh, observe and learn from them and then implement a lot of that into my game. And fortunately, I was able to do it and for until I into my 40s, but didn't pick up a lot of it until, it didn't really like sink in.
Yeah.
Uh, I was in my 30s.
Oh, man. Beautiful. Well, I'm glad you're getting a chance now to kind of give us some of this information and lessons that you've learned along the way. That was so well put, man. Let's get into some of our early stuff here. So now I would love to hear about what are some of your earliest memories of baseball, and kind of when do you remember kind of falling in love with it? When did it grab you?
Uh, I would say probably going to Fenway Park with my dad. Being able to we would take the train into the stadium into Fenway, and before the monster seats, before all the decks that they have there, and just pretty, I guess, original bare bones Fenway Park to what it was. My earliest memory is walking up through the tunnel
Yeah.
after coming in through, I think it was would have been gate E on Lansdowne Street, and walking up and then catching the tail end of the Red Sox batting practice when the gates would open, and then unfortunately having to watch a visitors team, because as a kid you want to watch the home team,
Sure.
which I still don't understand with Major League Baseball. They have to change that rule, like open the gates when
Right.
the home team
Right. It
is
doesn't
hitting
make sense.
bad.
Yeah.
The guys don't care. They don't want to, whatever. You're throwing a bullpen, you got a few kids hanging around.
Yeah.
That is one of the things marketability wise that they can do to just a small increase to help themselves is
Yeah.
open the gates. Like open them up, at 1 o'clock, and you can watch early work. you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that was, and then you see the most perfect piece of grass. You come up through the tunnel, you see the most perfect piece of grass, and then you get to sit, at Fenway behind a pole and miss, a couple fly balls to left field because you have to look look around the pole.
Oh,
But
man.
that was probably my earliest memory of
Yeah.
baseball, and then watching my brothers play in the what it used to be. I think it's still around the Park League, and the Junior Park League here in Boston. So it was like inner city baseball
Yeah.
that they played. But you know, being around them and being able to bat boy for their team, those are the earliest memories.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
did that, then eventually you got to suit up for the Sox. Was that a special moment for you, growing up a Sox fan, or was that you'd played for so many teams at that point, it was more just like another team?
No, it was definitely very special. Super emotional. Like, guys that were there, Adrian Beltre, um, David Ortiz, Dustin Pedroia, um, Jacoby Ellsbury, Jed Lowry,
Yeah.
Victor Martinez, and Tito Francona, was the manager. So, and it's not that I was growing up with that Red Sox era when they won the World Series in 2004, but I was 24 years old when they won the World Series. And then when we went to the postseason in 2007 for my first time being in the postseason, we got knocked out. The Red Sox ended up winning,
Hmm.
and my wife Caitlin and I were living downtown, and I was frustrated and pissed after losing and getting knocked out of the playoffs. But then here comes the parade down the street, and I look out my window, and it was interesting. It was
Yeah.
because it was like motivating, but it also was frustrating.
Sure. Yeah.
So only a few years later, but that whole, with Tito and uh, obviously a lot of guys that were on that 2004 team were kind of at the tail end of their careers. Um, Being able to play with them and put on a Red Sox uniform was extremely special. And it
Yeah.
was the right time too for me in my career, because if I had come up or drafted by the Red Sox, there was just um, too many variables that would have gotten in the way of uh, you know, how I ended up where I was,
Yeah.
or being able to accomplish, um, the career that I've had, uh, in a sense. Because I
Yeah.
think that, who knows? But I definitely see it as a differing point when I
Yeah.
was younger. And if I had gotten drafted by them, and I just don't know if it would have been the same road.
Yeah, beautifully put. And something piqued my interest there. And this is one of my favorite questions to ask guests because my relationship with my father was heavily built around him supporting me chasing this dream of professional baseball. Tell me about your father-son relationship and how it was intertwined with baseball and how he supported you, coming up through the ranks.
Um, so he was an athlete himself. He played football in college and was selected by the Pittsburgh Steelers, but then got
Oh,
drafted into the uh, army and went to the Korean War.
uh-huh,
Um, so he had an athletic background himself, and all my whole family did. My sister, my three brothers, they were all great athletes. So kind of following in their footsteps in a sense, but with my dad, he was an older dad, and my brother who's or sibling who's closest to me is 15 years older than I am.
oh, wow.
So I grew up with the older dad, so to speak, I guess. And but it was great. He would drive me everywhere and play catch with me in the front yard up until, it started to become a little bit too much.
Yeah,
Um and then yeah, we would just, I remember just going down to the Cape when I was younger, playing in tournaments, Cape Cod,
yeah,
and then driving wherever with the teams that we had as I got older. Whether that was American Legion, or flying out to California for the area code games, and then going out to Michigan for my recruiting trip, or most all my recruiting trips, where I went to. He flew with me, but um, to Michigan where I ended up going, he came out there, and yeah, so fully supportive and
yeah,
was always involved in a lot of the decisions that were made throughout my career. So
yeah.
even to the point of going to Michigan and not signing out of high school.
Okay. Right. Tell me about those other athletic genes in the family. You mentioned your brothers and sisters that went on to be some pretty high level athletes too.
Yeah, so my sister played rugby, and in college, and field hockey, and basketball, field hockey and basketball in high school. And you know, uh, she ended up going when she went to college. She played rugby when she went to college, and we haven't gone. I haven't asked her a whole bunch about that, but I do remember actually going to a couple of the games. And then uh, my other brothers played baseball. Two of my brothers played baseball and in college, and then one of my brothers was a gymnast. So
Oh wow.
uh, yeah, everybody played sports in college, and
Yeah.
um, yeah, it was again it was kind of a big. Academics were huge in our household, and getting an education was first and foremost. But if you could use that vehicle of playing a sport
Hmm.
to be able to have a better experience in college, then
Yeah.
by all means, that was a great option.
Absolutely. When did professional baseball get on your radar? Was it something that you grew up being like, I want to be a professional baseball player, or that evolved later on as your talent escalated as well?
Yeah, I remember when I was in second grade writing
Yeah. There we go.
a like, what do you want to be when you grow up type thing. And I wrote, I want to, be a major league baseball player.
Hmm.
So that
Yeah.
was, I had known when I was really young that was something that I wanted to do. Now, obviously, did I think it would come to fruition? I mean, I didn't know any better, right? You don't
Sure.
know any
Yeah.
different second grade. So I feel like it was always something that was going to be an option, because as I continued to play, I was good.
Yeah.
Not great, but developed into a better player as I continued to get older.
Okay.
And the draft process, in understanding whether being a professional was going to come to fruition was really when I was 16, 17 years old, right
Mhm.
around that time of playing in the area code games and having the opportunity to go out to California. It was the first time I think I was ever on a plane. So we flew out at 17 to Long Beach, and I had pitched whatever. You go out there, you play those games, and I pitched a couple innings or 3 or 4 innings, and next thing you know, it was like a lot of interest was coming in. Scouts
Yeah.
started showing up to games. Um, my senior year, and it was a real possibility, and a lot of it was um, designed around the curveball, so I could really spin a baseball.
Yep.
Um, uh, from probably my sophomore. I mean, once I learned how to throw a curveball, it was like, all right, wow, you have a good feel for spin, as they would say.
Yeah.
Now it would be more, you have uh, really good spin rate, or your RPMs on your curveball are really good.
Right.
So, um, but back then in high school was, you have good feel for spin. You understand how to spin a baseball, and that evolved over decades of being able to do that. But it got me initially drafted,
Mhm.
um, because my velocity I was probably 86 to 90,
Yeah.
and the time that was projectable, and
Yeah. Absolutely.
had the opportunities to get multiple chances to go to college, around the country, and chose Michigan, partly because my brother went to Wisconsin, and, he said, University of Michigan's the real deal. Like, you need to go out there, check that out, and uh, really seriously think about going there because their academics are, some of the best in the country. And that combination of athletics and academics, which at the time when you're coming out of high school, you're like, I don't care, I just want to play baseball,
Yeah.
you know. So being able to have a little bit of that insight from the Big Ten, and knowing uh, what that meant to go to Michigan was great. Having it come from, my brother, who had competed in the Big Ten and went to the University of Wisconsin.
Okay, right on, man. And I was just thinking off the cuff, your career spanned so long that you went from being a guy that was, drafted out of high school because you could spin it well, to towards the end, like
Mhm.
last year. I mean, so metrics, data driven, all the axis, all the spin rates, all this data. That must have been wild for you to see the game evolve in that way. You have any thoughts on that, or?
Yeah, I would say it's been good in a lot of it's been able to quantify why guys are good. It was able to quantify why, again, I could throw 89 at the top of the zone and spin a breaking ball off of that, and why my fastball at 90 to 92 played like it was 97 to 100,
Hmm.
and it was because of spin rate, and that had always been the case. It's just that we called it late life, or even before that was late life, for decades. Oh wow, he's got late life on his fastball. He's got good feel for spin. There was no mirroring, there was no tunneling, there was no um the ability to speak this new language that has come out, which has benefited a lot of people because now we can quantify it and understand why pitchers who have really good stuff are really good. We always knew that, but now you can see why guys who may not uh, on on the scale have great stuff, but they can perform really well
Yeah.
because of the metrics and the numbers that we're seeing, and whether it be the mirroring or the tunneling of pitches. um I think it should, and this is what I think with the ABS, and was able to experience the ABS, was able to experience the belly of the analytics, and was able to experience multiple things over 3 decades of playing, 4 decades of playing the game. um it should give. again, what I said with the ABS, it should give a lot of players more opportunities because you're now looking for guys who can execute and throw strikes and continue to throw, 3 or more pitches for strikes in the zone. Um, and as we're seeing, I feel like the changeup gets devalued um, because of analytics,
Mhm.
because it's not, this high spin, high velocity pitch, but that's what pitching is. It's throwing off the timing of the hitter. Um, so anyway, yeah, I've seen it in a good way. I think it's great. It's a great tool.
Yeah.
It's something that's there that where uh, you know teams can use it, pitching coaches can use it to their benefit, but also at the same time, you still have to be able to have the ability to understand the thought process of the pitcher, the heartbeat of the pitcher, and the fortitude of the
Yeah.
pitcher.
Yeah.
And that is something that you can't put on paper. And that will be argued just as, is there God or is it science? Now we're bringing that into baseball and into sports. And, you know, but it's true. It's unfortunate because, I think it's something that you see a lot of great performances get the rug pulled out from under them because of analytics,
Yeah.
or um, guys don't get the opportunities because we're not diving in enough to wait for the development of the player.
Mhm.
There's not a lot of players that are being developed at 22 and 23 years old. Now, if you're 22 and 23 and you're not at your peak performance or you're yeah, to the best of your ability at that time, then you get, thrown out and it's time for you to, the game's going to keep moving on. Instead of saying like, well, this guy really didn't have a lot of innings where he comes from, or he just started pitching, you know, 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Let's give him a chance for, let's bake this a little bit longer and see
Yeah.
how this kind of comes out of the oven in 2 or 3 years. Now he's 26, 25. Oh, wow. You start seeing an upswing,
Mhm.
as opposed to like, no, we want to keep the game, young and dumb. Let's just keep moving guys through the minor leagues, keep pushing them through, give them, that 5 or 6 year deal. We'll pay them. They're going to get their money. They'll be happy. Anyway, I'm
No, this is
going down a
fascinating. Please keep
tangent, but
going.
leading to a salary cap for next year. So, and eventually those players are going to become older players, and they're going to realize that, wow, we really made poor decisions when we were younger for the whole. But I think that's, again, the short the long answer of it is, yeah, it's been good. It's been good, but I think a lot of the things that we can't quantify are getting pushed out the window,
Yeah.
and it will come back because the game is played by human beings, and it's very difficult to, again, we're not race cars where you can just pull them into the shop and say, make a few tweaks here, make a few tweaks there. These things take months, years, and decades to perfect, and because of human beings who are playing the game. And the time in the gym, the shoulder programs, the throwing programs, the bullpens, it just doesn't happen over a week. Like, oh, I found a new pitch. Here we go. Yeah, you can master it for, that bullpen or a day. But then what happens when doubt creeps in? What happens when I don't feel too good creeps in? What happens if I feel too good and I'm overcooking it? So a lot of these things is more, and I always lean on it, as the mental side of the game
Yeah.
than the analytic side of the game, because this doesn't lie. This tells the truth when you throw it.
Ooh. Ooh, man, this doesn't lie. I like that. That's man, I am so glad you're sitting here with me, man. These insights are absolutely incredible. Oh man. When we're doing some research about you, I read that you're a natural righty, but your brother made you start throwing left-handed. Is there a story there, or can you expound
Yeah.
on that?
Well, I guess, yeah, I guess I'll this will be a lot shorter than the last answer, but he apparently took me out the backyard and kept putting the ball in my left hand, and I kept throwing it with my left hand. But yes, being right-handed is 100% accurate. That is what I write righty, I kick a ball righty. Um, Although hitting and shooting a puck left-handed. So, but
Really?
definitely right-handed with everything else yeah.
Man.
But we went in the house that I grew up in. Uh, not a vivid memory, but a slight memory of being in the backyard and picking up the ball at like, gosh, I must have been 5, maybe 4 or 5. But continuing on, like, just a kind of a process
Man.
of having it come together. So
That's cool. Okay. Do you have any special memories or moments from Little League that you feel like you want to talk about, or anything
not
happened?
again. Did we freeze again?
Any special moments, memories, experiences from Little League or anything like that that stand out to you?
When I was 11, we ended up winning the Little League town Little League championship, which was cool. Because then you have the 12-year-olds that you're looking up to, and all those guys that were, I don't know, just bigger, faster, stronger, cooler, all that stuff. And then the next year you got to be 12, and we didn't end up winning, but it was just my not just only win, but like the summers are what I really remember. My brother got to coach me in Little League, which was really special, and one of his best friends. So kind of seeing that come a little bit full circle a couple of years ago, and being able to coach um, my son Bryce in Little League, and understanding kind of that lens of what that looks like, maybe for him when he was younger, was a cool moment. And then also going from that to playing with your best friends when you're little, going to Cooperstown, and
Yeah.
long before there was the Cooperstown, what it is now,
Right.
uh, the experience that they have now. We would go and just kind of take a couple of older coaches in the town, put a team together, like a little all-star team, and we would go and kind of barnstorm and play the play the teams around or down the Cape. We'd get in a tournament, or we'd play in a couple tournaments up, around Massachusetts, and then at the end of the year we would go to Cooperstown as, for fun. But that again, those are the memories that uh you know stick with you for a lifetime, because
Yeah.
that was just so much fun. And the what do you call it? The just kind of the greenness, or the rawness of the game, or the fun, the joy of it.
Yeah.
And now seeing, again, going back to what we were talking about earlier with, have we pulled that out of the game, and we've made it so, um, we made it so,
Serious? So early?
yeah, serious so early, and so, I went to we went to a thing for our son in New York, and it just was. I look at it a different way. I'm looking at it through a completely different lens than all the parents and everybody else who are there. With 21 years of playing in the major leagues, and 21 seasons, or whatever you want to call it, and understanding the grind of how many times did you get released, what does your transaction list look like, and then we're sitting here talking about, oh, your kid has to be doing this, this, and this in order to get seen or to get an opportunity. I'm sitting there like, what the hell is going on? Like, where have we lost? Like, we have completely lost our mind and diving into, like, if they're not doing it, if you're not coaching through AI, if you're not coaching now, that's all well and good in a tool, but this isn't going to be the end all be all. As far as, you still have to go out the message should be like, hey, parents, go grab your glove and go play catch with your, you know, kid out in the backyard, or go, you know, hit them ground balls, hit them fly balls, go throw batting practice to them. That that's how they get better. They don't get better through, oh, you know, I went to the perfect game this, or I went to the
Right.
East Coast Pro Showcase, or I went to the, I mean, at some point, yes, these things become real and you have to be able to get into certain places. But if you're good enough, they'll find you. If you have the talent, all bets are off when you step on a showcase floor. If
Yeah.
you've been putting in the work in the gym, if you've been putting in the work in the cages, if you've been putting in the work in your bullpens, um, they'll find you and you're going to get the opportunity that you deserve. But to think you have to go around and spend all this money to play in some tournament, fly down to wherever, or you know, if you're looking for the experience, fine, go and do it. Like, as far as like, wow, this would be cool to play with a different group of kids, or this would be cool to go play down in Florida, or this would be cool to go to Georgia or to Texas just to experience it. But if you think you're going down there because your kid's going to get an opportunity to go to Vanderbilt or Michigan or Texas, like, no,
Right.
that's not
Yeah.
what's happening. I think that's what's being sold as a bill of goods. Like, your kids have to do this in order to get that opportunity. And that could be
Uh-oh.
further from the truth, in my opinion.
Now, I actually, the other day, like I've got a daughter that just turned 7. She's into softball and whatnot, and there's all kinds of flyers going around with these travel programs, like 7U tryouts and like stuff like this, crazy stuff like that. It seems like it's so early to be putting that kind of
Yeah.
pressure and that kind of seriousness on kids these days. I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the specialization leads to early injuries, and then injuries
Yeah.
end up, you know, there aren't too many guys, and I can't even think of one, to be honest with you, off the top of my head. Not one that I played with in the major leagues that only played baseball. That includes guys from Venezuela and Dominican. They
Yeah.
all Majority of them played soccer as well. So, you know, if I yeah, I'm a big proponent of playing multiple sports, and um, you know, understanding that it is, again, just take the numbers into account of what the odds are to be able to get to where you want to go. You know, somebody
Yeah.
told me this the other day that in Massachusetts, right, where I live, hotbed for hockey. This is the Texas of hockey, right, or whatever, if you want to call it
Well
California,
said.
right, for baseball. So hockey, 6 kids in the draft were picked from Massachusetts. 6 in 7 rounds. This is supposed to be the hotbed. So
Yeah.
take that, you know, you put that on your plate and eat it. That's not, you know. So what
Yeah.
is the goal? What's the goal? You want to enjoy, you build the skills and fundamentals of having perseverance, being a good teammate, understanding, you know, what it is to enjoy success, what it is to deal with failure and wake up and do it again. So those are the goals, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm trying, you know, interweaving uh, those characteristics of becoming a good human being. So,
Beautifully put, my friend. I want to move ahead along to your high school stuff here. So, Milton High School in Milton, Mass. I read that you were at varsity as a freshman, and then drafted in the 36th round before heading to Michigan. Would love to hear about some of your high school experience. What stands out? Some of the highs, some of the lows. Anything good? Yeah.
um, I can't, that's where I got to dust off the old memory bank. You know, I remember one of the highs was we were playing. I think it was in maybe the quarterfinals, or one of the rounds in the, you know, the state tournament, and uh, a now friend of mine, Matt Hyde, who was a coach at Michigan and now a scout with the New York Yankees, um, actually drafted Volpe, Schlittler, and Ben Rice. He was, you know, big part of them becoming Yankees. He came to watch me play, and I think I had pitched the day before, and I think we had won, and then had to play another game the next day. Um, and I was a better hitter in high school, numbers wise, than I was a pitcher in a sense. I made the all-star team, my senior year because of uh, how I hit. Not that I didn't pitch poorly, I just hit better than I pitched.
Yeah.
And anyway, I was on third base. We were down by 1 run, bottom of the ninth, and it was a really good idea of me to steal home. So I stole home and I was safe, fortunately. But the point is that was one of the cooler moments. And then I went back out and pitched. And we ended up, won the game, and I cannot remember for the life of me what happened after that. That was, that was one of the cooler moments.
Yeah.
Um, and a few of the home runs that I hit uh, were memorable as well. But um, in high school, yeah, the American Legion and playing in the summer was a blast. Again, with your buddies and hanging out at the beach or whatever, doing stuff during the day, and then having having the games at night. You know,
Hmm.
those were some of the cool memories. Um, of just being around baseball and
Yeah.
knowing that you had a game at night and make sure that you're at the field by 3:30 for batting practice or 4 o'clock for batting practice for a 7 o'clock game. Um, yeah, yeah, I remember. Well, I remember making or getting called up to varsity uh, my freshman year, and I thought it was seeing the seniors and the guys that were driving and getting picked up or whatever, taken to practice by some of the seniors. Um, as a coming of age or like a cool like experience as a young kid. So um, just those little things that
Yeah.
had nothing to do with even playing the game, but just being around adults, I guess, as a freshman.
Yeah. Tell me about then. When did like the college stuff? When did college just start sniffing around? When did pro attention start happening?
I would say when I was in 10th grade, um, for colleges, local stuff, going to some of the showcases. And, at the time, the showcases were more like camps, and maybe it was their way to identify players in the area. But starting to hear from, Boston College or Northeastern, Harvard, and um, a couple of the other schools in the area, um, whether that be Division 2, Division 1, whatever, Division 3, Bentley, that's in the area. Um, but then junior year is when things really uh, picked up with the area code games
Hmm.
and getting into getting into that. First of all, going to the tryout, and then when you go to the tryout, or what I remember when I went to the tryout, there were a lot of colleges and scouts that were there. So that was like a huge stepping stone. And then making the team was just more, it was more national attention.
Yeah.
And then going out there and pitching and having success, in the few innings that you get when you go out there. It was something that I had never, it was the first time I'd ever experienced like, full house with however many scouts and scouting directors and colleges and head coaches that were there. Was way over my head at the time, but again, very cool to experience because it was understanding how to perform under
Yeah.
pressure and
Yeah.
uh, uh, first taste really of like that national pressure of going out and trying to okay, how am I going to learn how to have fun playing this game, but also, and I mean, that's later on in my career where I understood to kind of let everything go and go out there and be in the moment and perform in the moment, but not until much later. So if I
Wow.
wish that is the thing that I wish I had when I was younger was the ability to go out there and understand what it was like to be a boxer in the ring. and have that mentality, as opposed to like living and dying on every pitch. Um, so fortunately, it ended up working out because, I had to have shown that I could spin a ball and
Yeah.
made some decent pitches.
Can you
I
put
even
yourself back into that, 17, 18-year-old's mind? Like, how were you feeling in those moments? Like, obviously pro scouts are looking at you and like, do you feel like you handled it well, or was that difficult, or what did that feel like?
Oh, I felt like I handled it well, but I was
Yeah,
also scared. I was
sure.
very nervous, shaking. I can vividly remember like shaking, being able to go out there and perform, and so nervous that like that you built it up so much in your mind that
Yeah,
it, looking back on it, it not that it meant nothing, but uh, at the time it was everything because it was like, okay, this could be the opportunity to go to wherever you want to go to in the country,
yeah,
or get drafted in the first round or whatever.
yeah,
All these things that you put, on a pedestal. And but again, it was a great learning experience because then the next time being in every time for me, it was always like, okay, wasn't like, the president of the United States walking in the room every time. It was more like, give me a couple days and then let me get to know everybody, and then okay, now I
yeah,
feel better. I don't know whether that's like social anxiety or what it is, but I never had
yeah.
like that walk into a room type kind of conviction, I guess, when I was younger. Um, so
Did that
yeah,
give you confidence though to keep getting invited to these kind of, area code games and stuff and performing well? Like, that
yeah.
must have helped you with
So it
your
did. It did because I wanted it. I wanted to
yeah.
keep like I didn't care. Like it was like getting into a fight and getting the shit kicked out of you, and you're like, wow, that was awesome. Let's do it again. So it's like, well, what? So yeah, I enjoyed it. I really liked the idea of like failing and being like, okay, this
Mhm.
isn't the end. Do it again. Get up and try again. So I, definitely looked at it, and that's kinda like my whole career. When I look back on it, it's like, wow, you really was a big mess, at times, but there were a lot of great moments, and there were a lot of consistency. You
Yeah,
built up to that consistency, and that's why I'm an advocate for teams being like, you gotta stick with these guys and,
yeah,
uh, build them up with a little bit more, I don't know, uh, kind of not hope, but just a proper programming and resiliency that
yeah.
they will come out the other end.
Okay.
And I know everybody has a shelf life, but I just feel that a lot of players nowadays get the get the rug pulled out from under them because
Yeah,
age is a huge factor, and I
yeah,
don't see that as something. I'm kind of a little bit more on the other end of that because I was able to
yeah,
do it, and I would like to see guys that have the opportunity to play as long as they can.
yeah. Beautifully put, man. I would love to hear about I imagine you probably, committed to Michigan before you got drafted. Is that accurate?
Yes,
Or
yes, before I was
okay.
drafted. Yeah, actually, the day that we came back, um, from Michigan, I had made up that
Tell me about it.
night.
I wanna hear about that experience. Like, why Michigan? Like, why you signed there? Why was that the school for you?
Well, I mean, one of the big reasons is they gave me a full scholarship, so
Sure.
that was
Doesn't
huge.
hurt.
That Yeah, no, that was a huge, like, and I was fortunate at the time. I had 3 other full scholarships, one at Kansas State, one at, St. John's, and at Marist University, which, I think is in New York, so a smaller school in
Yeah,
New York, but St. John's, the draw was John Franco and Frank Viola because they had gone there, so 2
yeah,
pretty good left-handed pitchers that had pitched for
yeah,
a long time. And then Kansas State, I don't know, I don't really, recall. I think it was just like, "Wow, this is cool. It's, out in the middle of the country and,
yeah,
different whatever." So, but Michigan, went to the recruiting trip, was able to go to a hockey game, which is, I don't know. Some might argue it's better than a football game because it's just so electric in Yost Ice Arena to watch a hockey
Yeah.
game. But didn't get to go to a football game until I was um, there my freshman year. So how did Michigan come about? Was really that the full scholarship, and then my brother, you know, promoting Michigan from via Wisconsin because he knew what it was like to compete against Michigan, what it was like to go to Michigan when you were on the other side of things, and how serious they took their athletics. So
Yeah.
that was something that uh, at the time, it was also kind of, you know, unheard of to decommit. So I wasn't in a position to decommit. Oh, we got we got blocked out again. Blocked out. The full scholarship didn't hurt, and also my brother promoting Michigan as academic, athletic, kind of powerhouse that it was and that it is, and being able to go and see the just the size of the school and the program and understand the history of the program, the history of the school, and how awesome it would be to go there. And when I came home from that recruiting trip, they wanted to know immediately, like, hey, you got to come to Michigan, and obviously I guess the business side of things that you start understanding as you're in an early sense of just even a scholarship.
Yeah.
Them wanting to know was something that was at the time, the biggest decision of my life. Being able to, you know, say yes to going to University of Michigan, and I mean that's one thing that I always tell athletes too is like you guys are making such a big decision in your life to be able and to be fortunate enough to be able to pick from a lot of play. If you have two choices, you got multiple choices to be able to go.
We were we were kind of on your Michigan stuff here, right? Still, I know we've had to stop and start so many times here already. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I can hear you fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I hear you great. So I think where we kind of left off is you were just going on about how Michigan ended up being the right field for you, and you got the cool experience of going to seeing the hockey team play, and you hadn't seen the football team play yet.
Yeah. So, and then I got home that night from the recruiting trip, and they wanted to know an answer, and I I was kind of hemming and hawing because it was a huge decision. First big decision of my life. It was like, where am I going to go to the University of Michigan? And I don't know. It was seemed like it was all the stuff that you get when you're a kid from a small town or wherever. Just making a big decision. Am I going to leave to go do this? And this
Yeah,
is okay. Uh, come home and make the decision, commit to Michigan, and then Skip Bertman, who at the time was a legendary coach at LSU, called, and I remember picking up the phone. My mom was like, "Oh, somebody from LSU is on the phone," and I answer the phone call, and he's like, "Skip Bertman from LSU, Rich, we want to invite you down on a recruiting trip, and we got a scholarship for you and all that." And I
oh
was
wow,
like, "I just committed to Michigan."
yeah,
I was like, "I can't." and I can't decommit at the time. I don't, remember anybody decommitting as they do now. Everybody,
Right.
it's like hopscotch whether you want to go to college. So, um, yeah, that's how that all came about. So, definitely, glad I made the decision to go to Michigan
Yeah.
and got the opportunity from there, um, you know, to play in the Cape League a couple of years
Yeah.
and get drafted a few more times and continue to work on building up some resiliency and that again, that muscle of putting yourself under uncomfortable positions to perform.
Beautiful. I love how you put that. And then before we move on to some of your Michigan stuff here, you got drafted at a high school. I'd love to hear about that experience, how that went for you, and like how you felt, and like where you were at, who you were with, all that.
Yeah, so I remember um kind of being around my house, with my mom and my dad, and we were watching I think it was the first day of the draft, and thinking like, okay, is this going to happen? Is this not going to happen? And nothing. I don't think anything came around the first day, and the second day, I want to say it was like later at night. It was like around 8 o'clock or 8:30. I got a phone call saying like, hey, this is from Cincinnati Reds. We chose you in the 36th round. We'll be in touch. Congratulations and all that. And then going through the process of like, now it's a new kind of decision to make. Do you go and sign? Where am I going to go? How is this going to? A lot of it is just like being able to understand. When I look back, is being able to let go of control, and stop trying to have control over things, and understand that you have the only thing you can control is how the ball comes out of your hand. So you know, in that moment of, where am I going to go? How many innings am I going to get? How am I, all this stuff that is filtering in, or do I go to Michigan?
Yeah.
How much money are they offering? Is this enough money to make, compensate for not going to the University of Michigan? And all those things were running through my head, and made a very, you know, I ended up making the right decision, but at the time, very difficult decision for somebody who's, 18, 19 years old,
Yeah.
leaving high school.
Now, were there serious talks? Like, were they
So that's
throwing money at you or anything like that?
yeah, the numbers seemed like they were okay. I don't know, and I just didn't think it was enough. Talking with my dad, talking with my brothers, and not enough to compensate. Leaving a full scholarship on the table to go to Michigan.
Yeah.
So that was that.
Yeah.
Obviously, if we were talking back in 1999 and trying to recap that decision right now, would have been much more different.
Sure.
But I think at the time it was, looking back on it, that's how I looked at it, as like, wow, it was. And again, with you know kids that are going through these decisions right now, they're major life decisions, and I think we get um stuck at seeing, a lot of the Instagram kind of posts, or,
Hmm.
everybody's doing it for, that, as opposed to like, how is this going to affect, the next 5, 10, 20, the rest of my life,
Yeah.
making this as a major decision when you're younger.
Yeah, well said. And not lost on me too that I think it's different now, but it used to be 11.7 scholarships spread across a Division I roster. So to get a full ride says a lot about the player that they thought you were and that you could have been. So that's pretty amazing too. I've got you as having kind of a tough freshman year there statistically, but then strong sophomore, junior years. Any experiences or stories or moments stick out from your time in Michigan that you'd like to touch on, or anything that you learned about yourself, or just anything like that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it kind of stems from, going back to that area code games, like terrible, like not terrible, but like very nervous, very, was able to throw the ball okay, to be able to get opportunities to throw the ball, terrible my freshman year. because of expectations and putting undue stress on myself to go out there and perform.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of things that did factor into it that I look back on is like strength, the ability to have a good idea of what the mental game actually means, um, to implement into the ability to go out there and perform and stay in the moment. And strength had a huge aspect of that, which, you know, for whatever reason, wasn't really a major theme for baseball players as we were growing up. It was
Right.
more about uh, just staying limber and loose,
Yeah.
and there was no real shoulder program. There was no real strength and conditioning program in a sense. We did have one at Michigan, but it wasn't until I was 29 years old that I get in the gym consistently for the next 16 years.
Yeah.
So that had a major impact on my confidence and conviction moving forward, is getting into the gym and getting stronger. But not when I was a freshman at Michigan. So it was something that, putting the undue stress or whatever it might be to go out there and perform with a full scholarship. I think that was something that, now might be a little bit more commonplace, was
Yeah.
something that was, you start talking to other players and uh whatever that might be, guys, you feel like, oh, maybe do I deserve this, or I'm not living up to it. um, all the things that you even hear about guys in the major leagues when they sign a big ticket, they're not. It's not about that. It's about being able to how to perform in the moment and do the best that you can,
Yeah.
and your effort. It's more about the effort than it is about the outcome. It's always about the effort than the outcome.
Oh
But you
man.
can put your head on the pillow at night. And I never learned that. I never learned at a young age. I did not understand what effort looked like and what the right effort looked like,
Until when?
as opposed to uh
When did that click for
till I
you?
was 30.
30?
30. Mhm.
Was there any
Yeah,
was
30 years
was
old.
it just like a culmination of all your experiences, or did something wake you up, or did someone have a conversation with you, or how did that go?
Sorry, it just broke up a little bit.
No,
Say that again?
did that come to fruition, or did that come into your head as like was it all your experiences, or did someone have a conversation with you, or how did that finally wake up or click for you?
Yeah, um, so I had, Bob Tewksbury, who had played in the big leagues
Yeah.
for probably, I think, 14 years, 12 to 4. He played a long time in the big leagues and
Yeah.
had a whole bunch of ups and downs, and understood, he ended up, becoming a, mental skills coach,
Yeah.
in the big leagues and with the Boston Red Sox, and I was fortunate enough when I was with Pawtucket in uh 2010 to come across him and be able to have friendship with him and multiple conversations, and really turned my career around because of the conversations that we had, in understanding how to strengthen the mental side of the game.
Oh, beautiful.
And, when I was coming up through the minor leagues and through into the big leagues, that was still looked at as like something that was, so coming up through the minor leagues and coming up through, even in the early part of the big leagues, that wasn't something that was looked at now as, okay, why are some of the greats as great as they are?
Yeah.
Um, or what makes an athlete consistent in what they're doing? And 90% of it is the mental side of the game and being able to understand how to have conviction, and trust behind what you're doing when you go out there to perform at the highest level. And that's, again, we dive into like when we talk about youth sports and all that. And I'm like, we haven't even sniffed the beginning of what is going on between the 6 inches between your ears.
Ooh. Ooh.
And and that's why I laugh at a lot of this stuff that I see, because, it's like, "Oh, he didn't pitch enough this summer, or he didn't get as many at bats," and it's like, well, he's 14 or whatever, they're 13, 12, however, whatever age you want to put on them before they're 17 or 16. Uh, and then now, let's say you get those at bats or you get those innings. Well, let's go ahead and dive into, have you been doing the work in the gym?
Mm-hmm.
Have you been doing, the shoulder program that you should be doing? Have you been doing the conditioning that you should be doing? Um, and then on now, the I wouldn't even say it's like the cherry on top. It's like the damn near the whole Sunday. Have you been doing the work mentally on how to prepare yourself to perform in moments that are going to be, those one-time kind of deals that come across?
Yeah.
Uh, and I wish that I had had that when I was younger, but it was so passé. It was so looked down upon
Yeah.
as you were soft.
Right.
Uh, you had issues. You couldn't handle being in the big leagues, or you couldn't handle professional baseball, and that's where I have again like a soft spot for players where it's like, no, they can do this. They just need to be able to find out how can I get some consistency
Yeah.
in practice to build up the conviction and the confidence to go out there and do it when in front of 50,000
Yeah.
and not give a shit about who you're playing in front of, or not care about, what the writers are saying, or not care about what family and friends are saying, and go out there and be like, wow. Now, a little bit, it is callous, but that's also the other side of the game. The game is cruel. The game is callous. The game will rip your heart out and watch it, beating as it continues to drive away. And I think that's something as a player that you have to learn to become, that boxer in a ring and
Yeah.
have that mentality. And it comes off as off-putting. It comes off as, wow, you've changed. You've changed. Something about you has changed. It's like, yeah, because I just don't give a shit anymore. I go out there and I play with a reckless abandon, with conviction and trust and confidence in my ability to go out there. And I don't care about what ESPN says the next morning. I don't care what, the Boston Globe writes about. I don't care.
Yeah.
And you have to have that mindset to go out there, because if you're doing it for, the attention or the outcome, you're going to be in that washing machine for a long time, and
Yeah.
that's tough to get out of.
That's absolutely fascinating. Man, you are dropping some dimes, my friend. I want to move on here to being a Massachusetts guy. That must have been cool for you getting a chance to play in the Cape, and I have you here on playing for the Chatham A's. Loaded rosters. Mark Pryor, Bobby Crosby, Ryan Howard, Todd Linden. I'd love to hear about your experience getting to play in the Cape. That must have been a dream come true for you, being a Northeast guy.
Yeah, it was, and it's funny, those guys, Bobby Crosby and Pryor ended up going and playing on the national team, so we didn't get a chance. We played against them when they came to the Cape, though, which was
Okay.
cool. But and then I ended up becoming teammates with Mark with
Right.
the Cubs, and then he was my pitching coach with the Dodgers years
Yeah.
later.
Full circle.
So it was like a full, yeah, it's crazy. And such a great guy, and just, anyway. But yeah, the Cape was something that I wanted, because I was like, I want to play against the best players, and I want to play in that environment.
Yeah.
Even though like my freshman year was terrible. It was not good. And the head coach at Michigan at the time was trying to tell me, well, maybe you'd be better off going to the New England Collegiate League. And, for whatever reason, it was like, no, I want to go play in the Cape. I have the opportunity to play in the Cape. They were offering, me an opportunity to go to Chatham and play in Chatham.
Yeah.
I want to go there and see what I can do.
Sure.
And, I went there, and it was definitely like an eye-opening experience, because again, when you continue, I feel like trying to put yourself in those positions where you're uncomfortable. And again, this is just looking back, has been so much more beneficial than taking maybe an easier route or a smoother route. And I'm not saying that would have necessarily been true in, a different summer league, or uh, going to a different school or whatever. But this is just the path that that for me that I wanted to take, and I ended up not performing very well that summer in the Cape. But I'm glad that I did because it gave me a lot of confidence going back to Michigan, saying I can play with anybody.
Yeah.
And playing with guys from all the top schools in the country, and then coming back to Michigan, and then performing well my sophomore year gave me the chance to go back to uh, the Cape again, and I performed well, and it was because of the year before and having that experience and the confidence to go back and know that I could do it at that level with the best talent in the country,
Yeah.
supposedly at the time.
And what was that atmosphere like? I mean, from everything that I think I read, it's so unique. Like you're on high school fields, the sidelines are filled with people in like lawn chairs. It's very unique experience, baseball wise, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's your high school field, it's your state championship game every single night or
Yeah.
whatever you wanna call it with, like, packed hills, packed, bleachers.
Yeah.
It gave you that feel though, like, state championship feel every single night,
Yeah.
and, again, playing with those guys and observing and watching and seeing the best fail, seeing the best succeed, hanging around guys that loved the game of baseball and had different ideas, I guess, about, whether that be introduction to like, oh, that's what a long toss program looks like. Okay, this is why,
Yeah.
he swings, this size bat, or there were, at the time, no weighted balls or anything were being thrown around. But you get to play with guys from all over the country, from top schools that were going to be top draft picks.
Yeah.
So you look at them and you say, I'm not too far off, or I think I'm actually better than that, but okay. And you again measure yourself up a little bit, but understand that you can do it. You can continue to keep making this dream like a
Yeah.
reality because you're seeing yourself as one of the best that can do it at that level.
Yeah. So it sounded like your eyes and ears were open the entire time. Like you were observing what other people were doing. You were seeing what made them successful and what didn't make them successful. Would you say that's pretty accurate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. I think
That's cool.
I think a lot of it, uh and I've seen that throughout my whole career. Whether that be guys succumbing to injury or guys that don't wanna go to, take on that. How can I exhaust every possibility
Yeah.
and take the uniform off my back and not somebody else take it off my back?
Yeah.
So, I think that that's something that is a hard look in the mirror, or some people are just fine with it, and that's okay too. Like, whatever way, it's like, you know, it's like grief or death. There's no playbook for it.
Oh,
Everybody grieves differently. Everybody
yeah.
handles, you know, like just death differently. And how do you, baseball is that your profession or your sport that you're playing and that you've been working so many decades at. That's a grief that you have to go through and process because it's over. Um, and whenever that is, it is. But for me, I wasn't too what do you call it? I wasn't too proud not to go to independent ball and play
Yeah.
and have the opportunity to be able to, you know, hey, what's the worst that can happen? I go home and it's over. Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
Well, at least I know.
Yeah.
At least I know.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's, you know, the other side of it too. And what, just so many talented players
Yeah.
over the years playing with so many guys and a multitude of different ways that, careers, stop. And, um, I always encourage guys and I've gotten multiple phone calls from a lot of guys saying like, "Hey, I'm coming back or I'm going to continue to keep playing because you kept going." And that, again, like I hate even this stuff, I don't enjoy it. I don't, not that I don't enjoy it, but I don't like, like, hey, yeah, I did this or I did that.
Right.
But, that was probably some of the more gratifying stuff, getting phone calls from guys or texts saying like, "Hey, I'm gonna keep going." Because why not? It's gonna end someday, but, you know, keep going as long as you can.
Okay, cool. Okay, so we're getting right into about you got drafted 2 times then, 2 more times in college. I got you in the 7th
Yep.
round in 2001, by the A's, and then again in
Say that
2002
again?
by the Cubs. I
Yep.
had you drafted in the 7th round, 2001 by the A's, and then again
Yeah.
by the Cubs. Why did you not sign, with the A's?
Yes.
Okay, I got you taken in the 7th round by the A's in 2001, and then again the Cubs in 2002. Why did you not sign with the A's? What went into that?
Oh, the Angels draft me in
Yeah,
oh oh '01. That was, so, yeah, the Anaheim Angels at the
yep.
time had drafted me, and that was another it was just another it was another big decision. It was a sophomore year, and I was like, "Well, I'd have 2 more years of school left," and, I really started it, enjoying Michigan after my freshman year and coming back for my sophomore year, and, like, I was like, "Man, I really," a lot of good friends and teammates, and started to feel comfortable there, and that was, like, part of the bigger decision on wanting to come back, uh, as well as, again, financially, like, does it outweigh.
All right, guys, that's going to break up part 1 and part 2 here. I decided to make it one large episode instead of making it 2 here. So, also wanted to say thank you for rocking with us. I know there were some technical difficulties and some of the conversation was a little choppy at parts. We kept having internet connectivity issues and not my first rodeo with having issues like that, but we fixed it for part 2. So I want to say thank you to Rich Hill too for not big leaguing me. Never showed a moment of frustration. He was first class all the way. Speaks to the kind of guy he is. So hope you guys are enjoying this. I think part 2 is really special here. The next 2 hours that you're about to listen to, I think we really hit our groove there. And then stay tuned for more of them. I think we got at least 2 more parts, and Rich is all the way in. This has been so incredible. Appreciate y'all. One.
Hey, what's up? How's it going? Can you hear me?
I hear you loud and clear. I think we're going to be A-OK today, my friend.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yep.
How's it
Uh,
going?
all well, man. And I wanted to thank you again yesterday. All those technical difficulties that we went through. You were a human being, and I really appreciate it. That was stressful for me trying to
Oh,
navigate that.
no, I mean, doing what you do and the work that you put together, it's not easy. I know it takes a lot of effort to
Okay.
do something like this. It's not it's not simple.
I know. And it was just like you're obviously the most credentialed guest that I've had on thus far. So having this moment of like, okay, I got this, really high level dude on here and the internet keeps going in and out. It was just like, oh my God, my heart was just jumping out of my chest every time. So thank you for being an awesome guy. I really appreciate that, man. How you doing?
Oh, good, good. Everything's good.
Yep.
Just
Back in
got some.
back in the room with all your gear. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, well, I'll go back in there and see if this continues to work with the backdrop.
Yep. So
Get
we're
a
all
little
set
bit.
here. And then off air yesterday, we had a little conversation when we stopped recording, and you commented on some of my books here behind me, and that was awesome. I actually, I used to ask every guest, "What are some of your favorite baseball books?" But I stopped asking because so many people said I don't read, and I thought it was kind of an embarrassing question to answer like that. So you saying that you are a reader, and we were talking about some Jane Levy stuff. Have you read the
Yeah.
Koufax book?
Yeah, no, just, in and out of it. Nothing,
Okay.
I haven't the one that I have, I'm almost done with is Make Me Commissioner. So I would say that's the one, that's the number one, baseball book that, because it's so recent. And then trying to I mean, I don't know how many guys go to, like, The Science of Hitting with Ted Williams, but God,
Yeah.
that was I know it's not probably, the in-depth kind of, biography, um, that everybody's looking for, but it just gave such an insight, and then playing with somebody like Greg Maddux and his ability to see the game through a different lens and, his understanding, you know, of pitching and the game itself, but
Yeah.
having that first real world experience and then, not able to obviously play with a guy like Ted Williams, although some guys thought I did, but being around Greg Maddux and being like, wow, this is, every day was like a master class of
Yeah.
of insight and the conviction that he had behind what he was doing every time he went out. So, um, yeah, that's a kind of a
Yeah.
little bit of an all over answer to a
No.
book, but
That's beautifully
um,
put. Beautifully put. I actually have I brought out my Sandy Koufax jersey over my shoulder here.
oh yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Bringing
he,
out.
he's one of the best. I mean, haven't read like I said, I haven't read the book yet, but
It's
got to
incredible. You
spend
should.
some time with Sandy and just a incredible gentleman and
Oh, really? You have?
yeah, yeah, when I was with the Dodgers and,
He helps in spring
um
training and stuff, right? Or used to?
well, I used to,
Yeah.
but he would come around for, a lot of big moments for Clayton and, Kershaw
Yeah.
and, for the beginning of or during most of the postseasons. So
Yeah.
fortunately, we were in the postseason every year, and he'd come around for the World Series and, got to talk with him about the breaking ball and
Yeah.
just executing pitches and how he kept it, simple and he was really, I mean, he's a very humble guy.
Right.
So, you know, uh, he'd walk in the locker room and everybody would kind of, look at each other and be like, hey,
It's
Koufax
Sandy.
is
Yeah.
that's Sandy. And he would,
Right.
he and it's interesting because the standpoint of that he could walk in and say whatever or do whatever. It's just he had such ultimate respect for all the players
Yeah.
that were in that locker room, and I think that just speaks to the who he is as a person and the professionalism that he would um, you know show everybody. But you see that through the best players. They don't walk in and uh, I don't know. They just have a different way that they go about their business.
That's fascinating. And obviously, you
Yeah.
are known for your Uncle Charlie. Did you guys ever talk grips? It was fascinating reading his book and him talking about. I mean, he had huge hands from what I read, and it was
Huge
almost like
hands.
his
Yeah.
thumb wasn't even on it. It was just like buried in. Or do you have any thoughts on
Yeah.
that? What do you guys talk about?
Yeah, we would talk about, we talked about, the curveball, and he showed me, how he grip it. We gripped it the same.
Really?
Yeah, and, very traditional grip. It was just more how we would move, he would move his hand around a little bit on the ball, and some days he said very rarely, but, like, on occasion,
Okay.
um, so he would talk about, um, you know, similar grip. We had very same grip, but
Yeah.
moving. I'll have to grab a baseball. Let me see if I can grab you a baseball.
Yeah, buddy. Let's go.
Here's
Let's
one.
go.
This is from the 2017 World Series.
Oh
So
man. Cool.
uh, he would talk about being able to have his middle finger and thumb but his hand was so big that it would kind of
Right.
his finger would come down like almost down here. So he had
Yeah.
giant hands, but he would also
Yeah.
talk about getting on top of the baseball and more on the two seam side of the grip and then being
Really.
able to throw it almost, if this is traditionally like coming with your hand and your head together, he would be
Yeah.
able to get in on the inside of the ball and almost throw it like like a screwball. But
Really.
yeah, and he said it very rarely. So this wasn't something that was an everyday thing. So I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
His feel for being able to throw the breaking ball and creativity with it was incredible, obviously, and I think that was I mean I'm sure there were other examples, but he was really the first one to bring the prominence of that gigantic breaking ball
Yeah.
to prominence.
Well, he must have felt some sort of kinship towards you because that was what you were known for, right? And you guys obviously bonded over that in some way.
Yeah, yeah, and I think being left-handed
Yeah.
and I
That's cool.
uh just enjoyed the conversations that we had.
Sure.
a handful of times, and every time got to, was excited when you found out that he was in the stadium. So try
Yeah.
to seek him out
Yeah.
and just talk baseball
Did
and
he
and
almost have like an aura about him or anything, like an energy of something different about him just being Sandy Koufax, or is that just in my
yeah,
own head?
yeah, very calm, very you know, um, just easygoing.
Yeah.
Um, you know, just very master class type of aura around him, if you want to say that. Does that
Okay.
make sense? I
Yeah.
mean, just very subtle, nothing, always well dressed, like, you know what I mean? Like, just
Yeah.
put
Put
everything,
together.
yeah, everything about him was just simple, but elegant. So I think that's the best way to put it.
Elegant. What a great way to describe him. I want to play a clip actually from Michael Barrett, who when you were talking about Greg Maddux a little bit there and how he kind of just being around him was so incredible and like soaking up the master class knowledge that he has. I'm gonna
Yeah.
play it right now. Here we go. That's on the rest of his repertoire. Fastball.
Yeah, so over the time that I spent with Rich, he developed into a really nice starting pitcher. He worked really hard on a slider and which was kind of a cutter to righties. I think Greg Maddux was a great influence to him
Oh, cool.
during that time. He also worked on a changeup, but nevertheless, I think his power breaking ball was his bread and butter. That and the high fastball
Okay.
were those were his out pitches. That was his go-to when the game was on the line.
Yeah.
But I mean, over time, he developed into a nice pitcher, and then you saw him kind of reinvent himself later on in his
Yeah.
career, dropping down, doing some different things,
Yeah.
showing some elasticity, showing some flexibility there, and pitching into some big ball games late in the ball game.
And you could see that, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
We've got some absolutely amazing clips from O'Malley, Barrett, and Dempster here. Any
Yeah.
more on Maddox before we move on? Like anything interesting, any interactions or any ways that he took you under his wing or just in ways that you were in awe of how he operated, anything like that?
I just think how simple everything was for him, and I think he was obviously at that point in his career where in his mid to late 30s, and um, again trying to figure out being young and kind of, yeah, stupid, in a sense, and watching him go about his business is in the conviction that he had, and in his ability to own what he did really well,
Yeah,
was because of, the successes that he had, I would say, in his career, and success brings confidence.
sure.
And I'm a firm believer in that. It's not the other way around. You can kind of have that fake it till you make it mentality, but it only lasts so long because you have to have the true success
Yeah,
to go out there to build that confidence. And he would always break things down very simple, like everything was, there was not some magic solution
yeah,
to having success. There was no, it was just execute pitches, get ahead, be in advantage counts. When you're in advantage counts, being able to throw, certain pitches for strikes, and making pitches strikes to balls, and balls to strikes. So when you throw your pitches, and
mhm,
a lot of stuff didn't really like hit me until I was in my mid 30s and said, "Oh, okay, this makes sense now. Why, we talked about this when I was 25 or 26 and had no idea. I just, was trying to survive myself as
yeah,
opposed to thrive and be in a
right,
thriving area of understanding what a routine was, understanding what a process was. It was very immature. It was not, polished, and literally going from outing to outing, and living off of, the previous outing or the previous day, how the ball was coming out of my hand at the time, which I
yeah,
didn't even have that thought process of how the ball was coming out of my hand. It was just throw it and hope. Um, and when I eventually, as we talked earlier about with Bob Tewksbury, and having a deeper dive into the mental side of the game, and a lot of this stuff started to come together for me connection and coinciding with getting into the gym and getting stronger and getting more confident, being able to repeat my mechanics and
Yeah.
understand that being in the gym and having that ability to have a great foundation physically helped mentally. And when those two things came together, it was really a different type of mindset. It was a
Yeah.
different type of approach, and a lot more understanding of those conversations with guys like Greg Maddux started to make sense.
Yeah.
And when I was younger, and I see it a lot in baseball, guys are just either fighting for time or trying to make their way in the big leagues, which is completely understandable. Um, and hopefully, uh, what I'm seeing now is a lot of guys are in a much better position physically to maintain their ability at the major league level. But
Yeah.
with, you hope that they get that kind of interjection of mental acuity as well.
Well
And that's
said.
something that, and you hear it all the time. Whatever sport you're talking about, and obviously at the highest level we're talking today, each and every one of those players talks about, again, the 6 inches between their ears. It's not about the ability. It's not. Everybody has the ability. There's every roster in AAA. Each and every one of those guys can play in the big leagues for a
Right.
long time.
Yeah.
It's the separator that makes a difference, and that is the mental side of the game.
Oh man.
Um, so again, going back to Maddox, and he knew, know thyself. He knew him. That was what I meant by being around him in a master sense, and at the end of his career, but the all the all the Rolodex that he was able to accumulate throughout his career was just trying to, understand where he's coming from, having those
Mhm.
conversations and picking things from those. It was a lot of listening and less speaking on my
Yeah.
on
Absolutely.
my end. And I would love to go back, and if the it is always a question of if you could go back and do something again. There were, again, probably nothing, but that would be something, and be like, okay, what a- what am I what is the routine? What does this look like? Why am I doing this? Um, and coming up, a lot of the stuff was, in the gym, and whether that be shoulder program was in its kind of infancy a little
Right.
bit, for pitchers, because it was kind of not looked on as something that we should be doing and getting stronger, and
Right.
um, in the sense that you see guys doing it now.
Yeah.
But that came around later, and I'm thankful for it. And but the information from guys like Maddox, Michael Barrett, Ryan Dempster, Kerry Wood, Glendon Rush, LaTroy Hawkins.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I'm
That's a
missing
name, man.
Carlos Zambrano. Just
That
watching these
staff
guys.
was nuts. Nuts.
Yeah, yeah, it was
Golly.
it, but again, they all had that. A lot of guys on that staff, and being able for me to catch glimpses of it when I was younger, it was like, oh,
What a
okay,
blessing. Yeah.
you had it, and then you let it go. You had it, and then you let it go. You had it, and you let it go. Like it was like an engine that just wasn't finely tuned. And
Yeah.
when you thought you had it, you said, okay, I'm good. I understand what I need to do now. When it was like, no, and I go back to like the mental side of the game a lot, because that is, again, the separator. But being able to understand that working on the mental side of the game is also just as equal as going to the gym every single day,
Yeah.
or however that is. Whatever, just as much as you need to stay in shape and your body atrophies, your mind atrophies as well if you do not
Yeah.
continue to work on it. So,
Oh man.
that was something that I didn't understand until, again, having that, you know, um, me- uh, whatever you want to call it, intervention or
Yeah.
meetings with Bob Tewksbury. And I had talked with Harvey Dorfman, who is,
Oh, yes. One of my favorites. The mental aspects of baseball, the mental keys to hitting, pitching
Yeah.
as well. I read all of them. Love those
Yeah.
books.
So it's funny because, Harvey and Bob, very similar to calling out the BS and just understanding that it's not about the outcome, it's about your effort. And how do you unlock that effort consistently in the player?
Yeah.
And how do you, some guys you got to push into a corner, and some guys you got to pat on the back, and, some guys are a little bit in between, but calling out, BS on a player and being like, no, I could see that you're not giving, everything you can, or you're not okay with that outing. So what is it that you have to get to? What point do you have to push yourself to be okay and be consistent with your effort every single time you go out?
Yeah.
And understand that that is what is going to unlock your true potential, as opposed to, playing it safe or hoping or, you know, um, just certain kind of going down that alley. And I think when you're in something that you want so badly, you have to let it go, because, you play it safe to get to a point and think that that's how you stay there. But you can't stay there by playing it safe. You have to go out there and have like a reckless abandon.
Yeah.
In control, under control. And that's what worked for me. And
Yeah.
I was able to find that, fortunately. But again, if that is one thing, again, going back to like when I was 24, 25, early in my career as a major leaguer, like if I could have had that mindset when I was younger, I don't know. Yeah, things would have been different.
Mhm.
But it wasn't. And I think, that's I was fortunate enough to be able to maintain, reinvent, continue to push,
Yeah.
find new ways to do things, and stick around for longer than I thought I would have.
Oh man, this is so cool. I'm just blown away by some of your answers, man. I didn't know what I was getting into. I haven't, I read some articles about you and whatnot, but I didn't know you were going to be this profound with how you were speaking. So this is just, man, this is chef's kiss, dude. This is so cool. We were trying to, I kept fumbling around trying to talk about your draft experience before we finally cut it yesterday because of all the technical issues. 3 times drafted, finally ended up signing with the Cubs. $302,000 signing bonus. What did it feel like to finally sign that contract and, have your ticket punched and be on your way?
A lot of, exciting, nervous, again, all the stuff that we just talked about, like
Yeah.
expectations and undue expectations. And I go back to, if, having that understanding of the long game and not giving your best every single time that you went out there. And that's not to say that I didn't do that. It's just that I didn't have the understanding of, okay,
Yeah.
how is the ball coming out of my hand? And that's what, like, Bob would say, and that's what Harvey would say, is like, have the ball come out of your hand the best that you can every single time that you throw it.
Oh,
And
that's beautiful.
the simplicity of that is just being in the moment and understanding how to be in the moment. And once I was able to grab hold of that, that made all the difference in the world. But going back to being drafted, you go through the whole kind of, how many opportunities am I going to get? A lot of it was outcome based, which was crazy. So, and I think a lot of what we live in is immediate gratification and outcome based, even watching whatever sport that we're watching as a fan, as opposed to looking at it and seeing, the years that went into that athlete getting to that point of their career, and seeing, the miscues or just like the successes of an outcome. but what was the process behind that? Whether it was a good serve or a good, shot in hockey, or, a shot in basketball, or in baseball, being able to execute a pitch or execute your pitch and have it get hit. What is the body reaction? How's the behavior? And then circling back, can they regroup and get back to the next pitch? Um, but yeah, that was not, that was not the higher level of thinking that I had when I got drafted. So I think a lot of it was survival mode.
Yeah.
And that's no way to live. But you live and learn, and I'm happy for it, because I feel like I
Yeah.
can pass that along to players now
Mhm.
in the generation that we're in.
Yeah.
Because I think they need it more than ever, as opposed to, that instant gratification.
Do you know if in the next couple of years you don't play professionally again as a pitcher, could you see yourself getting back into the game as a coach in some capacity, or helping out in some way, or how do you see yourself giving back to the game that gave you so much?
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to help players out, and I think through the experiences that I've had, and understand that for the players that are playing now, being having that one drop in a bucket every single day, and then watching that thing fill up and then overflow, and understanding that where you're at today isn't where you're going to be in a year from now or 2 years from now. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is just encouraging guys to continue on and continue to keep playing,
Yeah.
and exhaust every possible outcome or every possible outlet to play the game,
Yeah.
that they love to play. And there's no limit on this, uh, game, I think, up to a point, obviously. I mean, you can play it forever, right? Bill Lee is proving everybody wrong. But,
Yeah.
um, at the highest level, I encourage guys to play as long as they can, as
Sure.
long as they're obviously effective and they have something to give.
Yeah.
And that obviously for me on the coaching side would be something that I would enjoy doing. I've,
Yeah.
had opportunities, the last couple of years to do that, and I've talked with organizations. I think where I'm at, personally, with where our son is, and he's getting into the game, and I've seen other coaches do it though. George Lombard, whose kids, George, Jr. and Jacob. I think Jacob is about to be a first round pick. And Dino Ebel, his son. They're wildly successful coaches in the major leagues, and they're also, dads on the other side with
Yeah.
kids who are playing the game. And I've just been away for so long that, uh, being part of it, I've really enjoyed it,
I bet.
and
Yeah.
and watching him play,
For
uh,
sure.
has been a lot of fun.
Beautifully put. And I want, there's so many years, obviously, that you're in professional baseball. I've picked a few that I want to circle in on a little bit, but I'd like to hear about your first year in pro baseball with the Boise Hawks. But I'm going to let our boy O'Malley take us in here. So this handsome son of a gun, man, that guy does not age, does he?
Oh, he
Golly.
doesn't. He's unbelievable.
He's so good looking, you almost hate him a little bit, but All right, here we go. O'Malley meeting Rich. Here we go. Oh. Just tell me about how you guys first got acquainted.
Yeah, I remember when we signed in 2002 and they sent us to Boise, Idaho, the Northwest League. I remember like a lot of nerves going on, just drafted, some dogs coming in. You got the Latino group. You got that's new to me, and then you got some young
I love O'Malley.
college signs. And when I say young, actually they sent this kind of the older signs to the Northwest League, and they sent some like the younger signs out of the draft to the Arizona League.
Yeah.
And so I'll never forget, like right next to me was this guy, Rich Hill, in my locker. And, you just sit down, you start making conversations. You obviously have the connection of why we're there, but, you're spending 24/7
Yeah.
with these guys. And I mean, it was instant connection with Rich Hill. Like just it was super genuine. He was a 4th-round pick, pretty big deal. I think this was his 3rd or 4th time getting drafted.
Yeah, 3.
Like the guy, like he was a big deal in that draft, but you would never know it just in conversation with him. So me being a senior sign, I got a ball glove and a pair of spikes to be there. His route was a little different, but again, you would never know. And we just hit it off from that day on, and it was really history, from that point on.
Oh man, I love it. And then let's go. Tell me about him as a teammate. Or does anything stand out there? Or anything you want to touch on? Because you guys, we're at multiple levels together, right?
Oh yeah. So I mean that's day one, right? Right out of the right after the draft, we spent that full year together. We won the Northwest League, both on and off the field. Like Rich, we roomed together on the road. We hung out after games together. We go grab food before the bus. Like we were pretty much attached at the hip, and some of our teammates could feel that. But we played catch together, and again, he's a left-handed high draft pick. I'm a left-handed low, low opportunity, but we're still there, and that didn't affect us. Like we were just buddies, and just as a teammate, both on and off the field, the guy worked extremely hard. When we go to the gym, like they set us up before we had to be at the field, we would get on the bus, and go to the gym, and the guy was worked hard in the weight room, and we worked hard on the field, and we played hard, off the field. So, it was a natural feeling for us. It was a natural connection for sure.
Oh man, I love that, dude. That's the guy right there. Oh man, I love him so much, man. You got anything on you got anything there?
Oh, I mean, everything that we did everything together. And I think he was really the first kind of, inspiration for me, in a sense, in pro ball, of just being able to, how to handle things the right way, take care of yourself. 'Cause he did that to a T.
He was always dialed in with that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, always. And, we'd always give him a hard time for it. But, in hindsight, it's like, oh man, come on, eat, let's go get some pizza, or,
He wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
No, he wouldn't do it.
And
he wasn't afraid to shame you if you were eating shitty too. He was not afraid to shame you.
He would. And, he would, I remember the trail mix that we had, he would, pick out the M&Ms, and I'm like, that's the best part. But,
that's the only reason to eat trail mix. Yeah.
Yeah. But we would, we did everything together all the way up. And, I don't know. It obviously speaks to his success in life with his family, and just everything that he's been able to accomplish, and the human being that he is. So I think that's, again, speaks volumes about him. And, it's crazy. It's like a flood of memories coming back, and all of them are incredible times, and just it's the way it should be. It's the way life should be. So I think both of us were trying to figure it out, and find different ways to get better, and push each other, and certainly talk about, we talked about so much baseball. That was the thing that I always remembered, is just like, whether it's pitch grips, or, how to attack hitters, or, again, successes, failures, or, talking, he's probably talking me off the ledge more than I was talking him off the ledge. So that was something that, was just all really good memories, and, special to be part of, his tremendous moment in the big leagues.
Oh
and
my God, all time.
getting called up, and I'll never forget that. That's just something that was so damn special. And for him, again, the whole journey that we had together, and then and his coming, getting called up to Houston, and pitching against Andy Pettit, and absolutely dominating. anyway, it was, the guy's, he's the best.
He is the best. I got a few more O'Malley clips, and we'll get into your first season in pro ball here. Let's go, O'Malley, you as a pitcher. Here we go. Do you have any thoughts on the rest of his repertoire? Anything there?
Rich had a ability to be effectively wild. Like he went through the thing. I'm sure you guys probably got into some of that. And he had a ability to, like, especially with the curveball, where the batters never were able to dig in. Like that was one thing. No one ever wanted to dig in against Rich because he was effectively wild. Then he went through the little bit that's not funny, like a little bit of the yips, but it almost added to his game. Like nobody's digging in, especially now. And then for him to throw that curveball where it felt like it was coming at their head, and then it's like, right down the middle. The biggest thing for Rich, like the guy is a dog when it comes to a competitor. I don't know if you've seen clips. If you have seen clips, the guy's yelling at himself out there. He's yelling at everybody, infielders. He's yelling at umpires. More than anything, and it's true respect. He's not like knocking his teammates. Like he's an ultimate teammate, and people knew that whenever he was. When he would get his antics out there, they knew that they weren't like towards them because as good as a teammate the guy was. But you talk about an ultimate competitor and a winner and like just a fighter. Like I would, you should go look at clips of him screaming and yelling at himself and just the game. He got so into it. Yeah, for sure.
So fiery out there.
No, he's not wrong. But yeah, that was something to be able to, understand. Again, I think going through difficulties, and that's one thing that I think I have a very close friend. Right up there with Rhino. I'd put those two guys in the same foxhole with me. That we described it as almost like a personality trait where being able to be too nice and not separating the competitor from the human being when you would go out there to perform a job was really the kind of the underlying issue to what was going on, and a lot of things follow up with that. Sometimes it happens because of injury, which I think was something that happened. Again, this was something that was kind of ongoing for a little while with me, and battling through trying to be able to let the ball go and have it come out of my hand the way that I wanted it to. And that was, again, going back and being able to come in connection with the other guy that I'm talking about. And he dealt with a little bit of it himself, but it was kind of brought on because of injury to start, and then it becomes injury to trust, and you lose the trust to be able to have the ball come out of your hand the way that you want to. So again, we kind of boiled it down, or he boiled it down to like a personality trait of being, because outside the lines, be the best person that you can, be a great teammate, be everything that a human being should be. But when you get in between the lines, again, we talked about it earlier, like a boxer in a ring. When you get in that ring, you're not going to sit there and let the other guy just beat the crap out of you. You got to go out there and throw some haymakers and understand how to do that. So that really was a development of a competitor that took years to be able to come about. And again, going back to early in my career, getting drafted and a lot of stuff, trying to figure out how, developing a competitor and developing a player in whatever sport it is are two separate things. How do you develop that competitor who has the talent? The talent is there, but there's very few people, and there's a lot of great coaches out there who can develop talent, but can they develop a competitor?
Yeah.
So those aren't the same. Those aren't in the same. They're not in the same book. Because a lot of people have talent, but again, you get left. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but you just get left by the wayside because you don't understand how to compete.
Yeah.
And how do you compete with your best stuff? How do you compete with your worst stuff? How do you compete when you're sick, when you're tired, when things are going on at the house? How do you handle adversity and then go out and compete? How do you handle success and go out and compete? All these different things that could pop up, again, are two separate entities.
Yeah.
There's the talent and then there's the competitor. So it took me years to develop that competitor and understand that, it's been taken away from you. Now, how do you get it and not let it go? And it's not even letting go of the opportunity or putting on a certain uniform. It's having the ball come out of your hand the way that you want to every single time.
Yeah.
And that leads to, again, those small successes lead to big successes, which leads to consistency.
Yeah. Beautifully put, my friend.
And that's something that Rhino talks about that, like, being able to, not throw the ball where I want to, or yeah, it's just to me, it was a personality trait. It also, was July heat in down in Florida when we were playing an A ball and having the ball just slip out of your hand, like dunking your hand in a bucket of water and then grabbing a baseball and throwing it as hard as you can. Who the hell knows where it's going? But that's the stuff that
great.
all of that kind of filtered into the bucket
Yeah.
of leading to those issues. And being able to speak on that and being able to speak on injury and being able to battle back from injury, and reinvent yourself, start throwing sidearm to
crazy. Yeah. How'd you do that? That's wild.
Yeah. And then being out of the game to, again, Michael Barrett, Ryan Dempster, two guys that I know you spoke with, as you said, you know, those were two of the phone calls that I made when I was out. And those, Ryan Dempster, told me, he said, Rich, everybody thinks that you don't want to play because, you're 35 years old. Nobody's going to call you. You have to call everybody. And he said, you have a pretty hefty phone book of numbers of guys that are, high up in organizations.
Help you. Yeah.
Just like you call them, they're not going to, they're going to be excited to take your phone call. So
fascinating.
You have a good reputation in the game. And he was the one who really encouraged me to call everybody. And that's what led to calling Michael Barrett, who was the catching coordinator with the Washington Nationals at the time. And, again, going back to Michael, like one of the greatest things was in spring training, he would take me out to breakfast in the mornings, before camp started. And I just thought it was the best, experience as a young player to be able to have somebody really take you under their wing, and genuinely care about, how things were kind of progressing.
Yeah.
And that led into a lot of success in my 2007 season, because of him in the early going in spring training. But again, all these little lessons that I learned and have been able to compile are things hopefully someday, I'll be able to put into either a major league organization, to help other teams, or somewhere else along the line to be able to benefit players.
Oh man, that was incredible. Let's get through a couple more O'Malley clips here before we move on here. We got two clips here on your Uncle Charlie. There's so many cool clips about your curveball here. I can't wait to get into them. So here we go. O'Malley, we'll call this one Charlie. Both Dempster and Barrett said it was the best lefty curveball that they ever saw.
Oh, when I think of lefty curveballs. Like Barry Zito comes to mind.
Yeah.
And dude, Rich Hill had a Barry Zito curveball. Like it was just big, loopy, 12-6.
Yeah.
Sharp. Then even later in his career, he was able to tighten it up, make it bigger.
Yeah.
Eventually, he got outside arm with it. Like the dude could spin the ball, man.
Do you have any recollections of him making people just buckle and looking silly?
Oh, dude. I mean, absolutely. I mean, it was multiple times a night. And again, they knew it was coming. But he had a great high fastball. What's cool, especially early on in our career, it was we were always taught like, hey, fastball down, down, keep the fastball down, spin the curveball, and that's what we were taught. It's really cool that he was able to surpass that era and get into more of the today's game where it's like high fastball, like his high fastball up in the zone, set up his curveball. And so for him to be able to get to that point in his career, that he was able to capitalize on that was by far what made his career what it is. Because I'll never forget, like he could never really hit the bottom of the zone. He had a real like high front side.
Yeah.
Which made it hard for him to get down the zone. And dude, he would just get away with a high fastball, and then he would throw that curveball, and it was game over. Like those guys had no shot at it.
Amazing clip. You got anything? You want me to play the next one?
No, I think that's something that it was definitely. I could always spin the baseball. Like I said, that's what got me drafted out of high school. That's what got me drafted out of University of Michigan, and that's what got me, obviously multiple opportunities in baseball. Period. But the refinement of it came around, throughout my career. So, I mean, we can talk about that. Getting in touch with a couple people when, with the invention of analytics and being able to quantify why the fastball and the curveball were so good working off of each other, and it had really nothing to do with like spin rate or anything like that. I mean, that was always above average throughout my whole career, but it was really being able to understand how to use it, and then the numbers just backed up what everybody was seeing, because you'd see 88, and I clearly remember Carlos Zambrano used to call me 88. He's like 88, 88. But why 88 looked like 97 at the top of the zone was because of the, again, late life, but had carry on it, and to have that vertical movement on it, that 20 inches of carry, 20 to 23 inches of carry, and doing that from high school till present day was just something that people ask me about, and I say, well, I can explain it a little bit better now, but I think a lot of it has to do with finish and how the ball is staying on your your fingertips and staying behind the baseball. But Ryan was right. I mean, Rhino's, we were taught to get the ball down, and I had such a damn hard time getting the ball down in the zone. But once I learned how to do that and execute down just a few times a game, and I mean, like, that was like the first time around the lineup, when I could execute a fastball down, it just completely opened up the whole top part of the zone, because they see that fastball you stick down and away, and they're like, okay, and then it gives the perception that the ball is going to be executed down and away, and it just takes off, and that was something that I was able to understand as I got older, and because of analytics, it helped me understand it. And I was told by multiple scouts and coaches that they didn't think that the fastball curveball combination would work at the major league level just with 2 pitches. And it was such a different, not, I don't want to say, it's not like this was, it was 20 years ago, but it's not like it was completely different. The game hasn't changed as far as being able to execute pitches and change speeds.
Yeah.
But they didn't think that the 2-pitch mix would work. And that's where Michael Barrett came in spring training. He comes in and says like, hey, let's work on this cutter slider into righties. And it scared the crap out of me because I was like, wow, I don't know how to throw another pitch. I know how to throw 2 pitches, but how can I put a different pitch into the repertoire and start to expand it? But he did, and then that led to another opportunity of being able to throw backdoor cutters to righties and front hip and throw it in on righties and across the midline on right-handed hitters and away from lefties, and it changed a lot for me because it just started to open up again, a little bit more creativity, another pitch into the mix. And then Greg Maddux, going back with him, is saying your curveball is your changeup. So you change speeds with it. I'm like, it's so simple, but
Brilliant.
It's like, nobody talks about that. It's like, okay, you have the front part of the zone, the back part of the zone, top part of the zone, in, out. So all 4 quadrants, but think about, being able to change the depth of it. And when he said that, I'm like,
light bulb.
not one coach ever said that to me, was like, hey, your curveball is your changeup. Like, just think about it, how simple it is.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
But he's like, oh yeah, but it never comes around that way. It's never been. Even today, nobody else is. I use it. I stole it from him, so I tell.
That's fantastic. We got another one here. This is O'Malley Hambone. Here we go. I'm so excited to talk about this part of it. He's got one of the all-time left-handed, Uncle Charlie's out there, curveball. Tell me about that thing. How wicked it was. What's your recollection of it? Anything you got there?
Oh, it was. We call it the ham bone. Like, just throw the bone, man. Like, that was the hammer. Like, that was just that he had an ability to spin the ball, and I always love playing catch with him because that was never a strength of mine. Mine was more like locate the fastball, change up, and he didn't have a change up. And so
interesting.
We kind of loved playing catch together because I was like, dude, teach me how to spin the ball like you do.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, teach me your change up. And so we would just exchange our best information but man, he had an unbelievable curveball. Like, he could throw long toss with the curveball, and I never grasped the way he could do it.
Yeah.
And that's what made him special. And when he would get his starts and he'd be striking out 10, 12, 14, like all the way through from rookie ball to, I remember in Des Moines, Iowa, in AAA, he's striking out 12 a night, 14 a night, and the curveball was a huge component to that. Like, guys had no chance. It would be like the talk, like even after hours at the bars, like we'd run into some of the other teams, like that would be the talk. It'd be like, dude, your curveball is like ridiculous. And we're like, it is.
I love that guy. You got anything?
No, that's what we were just talking about, though.
Yeah.
Exactly that. He had that cutter and then the changeup, and he could throw that changeup at will. But we would say that I remember that.
You help me, I help you. Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where it was now it's funny because you see guys that with the seam shifting kind of concepts that are coming around and the understanding of different grips in a sense, but how to throw a changeup if you are a pronator or a supinator and not a pronator. And if you're a supinator, there are grips out there that you can throw your changeup and be wildly effective with it now. So that stuff wasn't around when we were, it was really like, hey, you got to pronate out front and you got to really turn it over. And the guys that could do that had great changeups, and the guys that couldn't do it, it was again, using the curveball as a changeup. And, but we would go back and forth, and we would, yeah, I remember saying that, be like, hey, give me your changeup, I'll give you this curveball. I'd love to have a great changeup.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's most of our O'Malley stuff. I might throw another O'Malley clip here a little bit, but
yeah,
circling back to your first year in pro ball here, Boise Hawks, short season low A, probably not the success that you had been looking for. What was your experience like in that first year? Pro baseball, the level is a couple steps up from Division I. What did that feel like for you? What did you walk away from feeling like after that season? Anything stand out to you?
Yeah, just the, again, like the camaraderie with the guys, and baseball wise, it was the first kind of real intense dive into every day, in playing every day. And I think that's one thing that, again, that baseball is again, for lack of a better term, amputating, is putting guys immediately into, that type of environment where it's like, hey, you're not working out every day. We're not going to play catch every day. You're playing games. You're getting into games, and understanding that, okay, you have to work out in the morning in order to get ready for a game late at night. It's a full-time job.
Yeah.
This is something that, we're trying to get you used to what that schedule looks like.
Right.
And that was something for me that was very, very, again, a daunting experience, although exciting, because all of us loved baseball. We loved the game, and we didn't care if we were there all night long. I think we got in trouble one time we were on the road, and we were jumping in the pool like after midnight or something like that, but we had to go. The clubbies were the what am I'm losing the PT was the clubby. The he would book all the travel. He was the traveling secretary. So and everybody, like, everybody hung out together, from the physical therapist to the trainer to it was all a really, really tight knit group, because we were all together. We were taking these 12 to 15-hour bus rides together. But anyway, the point of that story is that we had to end up, they made us all go and do the laundry that night. So we were like, after a night game, they were like, hey, you guys are staying here, and you're doing the laundry. And we were like, all right, we'll stay here and do the laundry. So we turned the lights on, and we took batting practice at like 1:00 in the morning. And, we got out of there, I think, at like 3, went home, woke up the next morning, and just those are the type of memories. And like going on the off days and floating down the river in Idaho, this vast river. I can't even remember the name of it, but like that was like O'Malley was like the guy who was leading the charge on that. So for those experiences, and different guys taking the reins and saying, like, let's all go do this together as a unit and as a group, as many guys that could, those are the things that I remember.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm going to run this right into an O'Malley story. Here we go. I can get it. Come on,
I
O'Malley.
got some phenomenal stories, but it's what's appropriate for the podcast.
Of course.
I think one of the coolest memories for Rich and I early on was we were in spring training, and I don't know if I shared this in my story, but we were in spring training, and he had his eye on this Ford Mustang. It was a cherry red, redone, convertible top, and he bought this in spring training, and we were all shipped to Daytona for that season, Daytona Beach. So we're living on the beach. He just bought this Ford Mustang, and me, Rich, and 2 other guys, we got this apartment right on Daytona Beach, like a skyrise.
Yeah.
And Rich gets this Ford Mustang shipped to Daytona Beach. And this is what the 4 of us are going to and from to our apartment, to the field. I mean, we're showing up. We think we are the coolest thing ever. And, it was all just Rich driving that Mustang, man. It was a stick shift, and we had an absolute blast cruising around Daytona Beach in that Ford Mustang. And the guy, I think he still has it. He recently just redid it again.
Oh,
This
cool.
this was 2004. This was 2004 when we were in Daytona, and we had this memory, and he's still got that thing. Just redid it, but that was a really cool memory. Rich Hill buying a Ford Mustang. The guy could have bought it. Like all the guys, in that like top end, they were buying like the Cadillac Escalades were like the cool thing, or like a nice souped up Chevy Tahoe. And Rich freaking fires out a Ford, redone Ford Mustang. That's just that's just Rich for you, man. Like
that.
it's just, he's not like super flashy. The guy never was that. I mean, he was true to his heart. He was true to himself for sure.
I love that story. And just, man, that sounds so cool. Just like 4 minor leaguers, Daytona Beach, rolling around in a Mustang. You got anything there?
Yeah, no, I have recently redone it. I was in my parents' garage, and then unfortunately they passed a few years ago, but I had to get it out of there, and then I brought it to I went to go get my oil changed in my car, and it's just another story where I ran into a mechanic down the street in the next town over from us, and I said, do you have any interest? And I wanted to give it to somebody who would appreciate it, so I walked in to this Meineke, and I noticed, I looked into the shop, and I saw an old it was a 67 Thunderbird, I believe, 66 Thunderbird. And I go, okay, well, maybe this guy appreciates vintage cars, because there's one in the back of the shop. It's up on a lift. It looks beautiful. And I'm leaving, and I turn around, and as I'm getting my car, I said, hey, do you have any interest in an old Mustang? I like literally wanted to get rid of it, because I didn't want to just I called donation centers. They wouldn't take it.
Really?
They said, well, it's just, it was in great shape. Just needed to have a touch of an overhaul. And so long story short, he's like, you know what? He's like, what you can do, he's like, do you have AAA? And we got to talk and whatever. And he said, bring it in. I'll take a look at it. And, we'll make an assessment from there. And I'm like, all right, that sounds great. Like, I appreciate it. Thank you. So I called AAA, I got it on a flatbed, brought it over, and, it sparked a great relationship that I have with Chris. His name is Chris Chetwynd. And, just his appreciation for older vehicles, and we overhauled it together.
Oh, cool.
Which was cool. He goes, you know what, man? He's like, you buy the parts, and I'll put it together. I said, how about I'll buy the parts and you help me, you teach me how to go through this as well. So 2 years ago, for the off season, the entire, and I'm not one to do anything on social media or anything like that, but I wish I had with that, as far as like a restoration.
Because
the
whole process was pretty cool.
The whole process was great, and I was in there every single day, from whether that be from like 9 to 5 or noon to after hours. We were in there just changing different things, cutting out whatever, and putting new parts on, and so it was really neat. So when I brought the car over, he power washed it, and he goes, you got something. And Ronnie, who owned the Sportsman's Den that's next to the Meineke, he's done over like 40 cars. So between both of these guys, it was just like a masterclass on older vintage cars, and how to put them together, and how easy it was. He goes, you have like an 8 out of 10 right here. Like, it's already, like, you don't have to do any body work. Yeah, it needs new wheels and tires, and we got to rehab the engine, but that's easy stuff. And I was like, okay, let's do it. So anyway, that was but having that down in Florida with us was a lot of fun.
I love it, man. I don't want to spend too much time on your minor league stuff because your major league career is so extensive, but a couple questions about your minor league career. And now the minor leaguers' living arrangements are much better than they used to be. But did you have any interesting or weird or unpleasant living arrangements while you were in the minor leagues? There's always some horror stories some guys have.
Yeah, we everywhere we were pretty fortunate. I think we were trying to find out where places were that were affordable. And I think with the minor league salaries as they were then, if we were clearing, I remember being in Boise, for example, my first paycheck was $350 after taxes for the month, and you had to pay $50 to the host family that you were living with.
Yep.
And then but it was great because you had a host family and you were just out of college, or guys were out of high school, or just from Venezuela or the Dominican, so everybody was in the same boat. And then going to A-ball, similar thing. Host families again, which was a good setup. And then when we got to high A, you were able to live on your own, and and then double A, and so on, and triple A. So nothing that was too crazy. When I got to triple A, being able to rent from another guy that was sent up to the big leagues, and be able to get into his place, and you never knew how long you were going to be in a stop. So the older I got, the more understanding I had of how it all worked. But really cool scenario was in double A when we were in Tennessee with the Diamond Jacks. Was myself, Carmen Pignatello, Ryan Rhino, and Ricky Nolasco, and the four of us were living in Section 8 housing. So it was what we could afford, and we made the most of it, and we had some great neighbors, and it was just a cool again, an experience that baseball
gave you
kind of put us in to an understanding of
That's
hopefully
beautiful.
being able to do great things after. So
oh man, love that. I love asking this question to guys. Baseball, it's so cool that throughout people's careers, all it takes sometimes is a coach that believes in you or shows you something different or unlocks something within you that takes you to that next level. Were there any special pitching coaches or coaches throughout your minor league journeys that you felt like were of that ilk, that helped you level up, that are special, that are worth talking about?
Yeah, Alan Dunn.
Oh man, Alan Dunn. I love that guy. He was amazing on the O'Malley Story.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, he really in my opinion was the guy who I don't know how to put it, like as far as like getting the most out of guys. And again, it was very early on of being able to call that BS out and saying like, are you doing your best, or are you just like kind of punting here? And some of that, like we talked about it earlier, is like, okay, you might be like, think it's soft, or I don't know how to really describe it, but there is a toughness about it, in a very callous way that you have to become and be, which does designate, under that kind of definition of soft, where in a sense of you're touching on it in a bad way. And you're not going all in a good way.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Where you can see that person has more in them, but it has to be pulled out of them because they don't know that they have more in them.
Yeah.
Or they don't want to go to that edge. They don't want to go to the edge, and see and really expand their horizons and see it as growth, as opposed to, if I do this, then I might fail. Well, if you don't do it, you're probably going to fail too.
Amen. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Alan Dunn was a guy who built the consistency, who introduced me to a throwing program in where were we the first time I had Alan? Was in double A. I think it was double A, right? Was it double A? No, triple A. AAA, because my first year in AAA in 2005, and that's where a lot of like we talk about the mental side of the game, but where I was introduced to a book, Thinking Body, Dancing Mind. And we talked about books earlier, but this book specifically talked, and I wanted something that didn't talk about baseball. I was just, you get to a point where you're just like, oh God, I don't want to go back to the hotel or to the apartment and just think about baseball.
Yeah, you need a mental break.
Yeah, spring training, if everything's going great, sure, you'd love to talk about baseball in an immature mindset, not in a growth mindset. And when you're sitting there and things are going bad, you ruminate over all the bad things and what else is going to happen. And oh God, I don't want to go to the field tomorrow. Literally, like sick to your stomach, can't sleep at night. All these things that would happen. But my point is that this book, that Thinking Body, Dancing Mind that I was reading, talked about running. It talked about golf. It talked about tennis. It talked about affirmations. It talked about how to deal with success, how to deal with failure. But it was really the first time that I was open to, implementing a lot of these things into my game, and breathing and meditating, and understanding how that can be wildly effective into a player's career. And going into that spring training, I had a great spring training, and everybody was asking me like, what's the difference, from last year? And literally alluding back to like what Rhino was talking about, not being able to throw strikes, or, having a great game and then, being a guy that'd be like, this guy's, he's still on the team, just so a wild card of outcomes to consistency. And it was like, oh, this is different. This guy's, he's coming into the spring training. He's got to focus. I was literally breathing in my locker room every morning quietly and on my own. So I didn't want to, yeah. And I really didn't want anybody to, because it was so 2005. It was,
no one was talking about that.
No. And it was, and I felt like, all right, this is, taboo in a sense, but it's working. Yeah. And I'm able to go out there and take PFPs and, execute, pitches in my bullpen and have live BPs where I'm throwing the ball with conviction. And, that season I went from AA to AAA to the big leagues within months.
Wow.
And, I know I don't even know how this question started. I think it was living arrangements, but
no. It started off, are there any special pitching coaches throughout your career that were very helpful in the minor leagues? And we went Alan Dunn, and now we're here.
Dunn, I mean, if I had to pick one, he is the guy that, again, built consistency.
Yeah.
Introduced me to a throwing program.
Yeah.
Which did not have, introduced me to doing core workouts every single day. And Rhino and I would, and you start seeing the results and the benefits of it, just like anything else. And you're hooked. Like, wow, this is amazing. We're doing this every day. Yeah. It's a pain in the ass. Okay. Yeah. It's tough being able to, like, after maybe a poor game the night before, it's like, oh, we got to go do core program, or I don't even want to work out, or oh, poor me, blah, blah, blah. But you do it and you're like, you feel better, and you see the benefits of it. And then you get over yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Oh man. Love it. You talked about, going from AA to AAA to being called up in this year. I would love to hear about your being called up story. Like who told you, where were you at? Do you remember the moment? Like how much can you put yourself back in that time?
Yeah, Mike Quaddy, who is our manager, in Iowa. I remember I had dealt with, I actually had a blister, which was, something that I had dealt with for most of my career, but I had a blister on my finger. And he was asking me, he said, it wasn't anywhere near what I had dealt with, 1 year when I was with Oakland. But when I was with getting called up, yeah, Mike called me in and he said, hey, how's the finger? And I said, it's good. He goes, I don't think we're going to have you start, tomorrow. And I was like, why? I was like, I'm perfectly fine. I feel great, whatever. And I, now I'm starting to feel like a little something's going on, but I don't like the feeling of not being able to get a start because
Yeah.
you're fighting for your supper every
Yeah, buddy.
single night, and you really start to understand that. And this was a time when things were going really well, and I had like a solid base of understanding the mental side of the game, and physically I felt great, and the ball was coming out of my hand well. So anyway, the conversation kept going on, and they were pushing me to not start the next day. And he goes, because you're going to be starting at Wrigley tomorrow, or you're going to the big leagues. Not starting, but you're going to the big leagues. And that's how that happened.
How'd
So
that hit you? What'd that feel like?
I couldn't hear. I remember I couldn't hear auditory, when it was almost like this high pitch frequency. And then, it was just a out of body experience almost, where you feel like everything that you've worked for comes to fruition, and now you get the opportunity to play at the big leagues. But again, I was drafted. I signed when I was 22, and I didn't make it. Not that I didn't make it to the big leagues. I made it to the big leagues at 25. Um, I didn't play well my freshman year of Michigan. Didn't have a great first year in the Cape. Was always the older guy. Was always older. So a lot of these things, getting to the big leagues at 25, I felt like I was, uh, at the time it wasn't old. In 2005, that was like kind of the average, maybe the average age of getting a big league call up.
Yeah.
But my point is that like expectations started to filter in, and outcome and all this. Instead of being like, wow, okay, I get to do this. Let's go freaking get it. Let's go step on the gas and go 1,000 miles an hour every time you get the opportunity. You're going for it.
You were feeling the weight of it.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. Yep. So, which, again, I think some of that is normal, but I would love to be able to implement like training guys on how to let go of that weight.
Yeah.
And
Be
understand.
present and enjoy the moment. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is easier said than done.
Absolutely.
But it can be. And I think it's something that I was able to find, fortunately, again, throughout my career.
Yeah.
And really take the joy of playing the game at the highest level was something that I was able to find. And I'm really thankful for that, because this would be a completely different podcast had that not come about, or just the persistency, the consistency and the persistent attitude of not giving up or not quitting, is something that was instilled in me in a young age.
Yeah.
But also was able to fortunately see it come to fruition, in the sense of not getting to the big leagues and having success at the big leagues, but actually enjoying it.
Yeah.
Enjoying playing at that level.
Absolutely.
And owning, that environment, as opposed to like, excited to be like, yes, I get to do this, instead of being like, oh boy, I hope this goes well.
As your career progressed, like, were you able to be more present, like where your feet were at, and enjoy the moments, as your mental game got better too? Okay.
Yeah. I felt like I could conduct outings and control the pace of the game and go with the pace that I wanted to, and not care about what anybody else had. And that's what kind of what Rhino was alluding to, was like, yes, at some times was I like, ooh, okay, that was a little like over the line, but not to the point where it was. And for me, it was, I'm not going back.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go back to the player that I was, because I know exactly what that was like, and that is not what anybody should do.
Okay.
But jumping over that, line and owning it, and being unapologetic for it, is completely okay. That is 100% okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's where that personality kind of trait comes in, where it's like you're not out here to be like a nice guy. You're out here to be a pain in the ass and a competitor.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was fortunate to get to that point for probably a decade,
Yeah.
and I was able to have that mindset for a decade,
Beautiful.
or plus maybe 11 years. But it took a long time to get there.
Yeah. Well, so beautifully put, man. What was it like first getting into that locker room and seeing your jersey in the locker and like looking around and you're seeing Pryor and Wood and Maddox and Zambrano and Dempster, like that's crazy. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I think it's I remember coming down. I had my University of Michigan baseball bag, and I think like Lyndon Rush probably made a comment or something about like hey, we're gonna need to get you a new bag there, coming in. And I remember walking in, because like in the old clubhouse, you'd come in right from the concourse to the stairs, and there was no pomp and circumstance. It was literally like a high school gym door at Wrigley Field that you would open up, an old metal door, and then like boom, you're in the freaking locker room with the Cubs. Yeah. It was like, wow, okay. I don't know if people know that are buying a hot dog and a beer
right there. Yeah,
that is where the players are. um, and now obviously it's palatial and completely different, but
yeah.
Yeah, it was the media was in there. It was packed. Like from what I immediately remember is walking down the stairs, uh, wall to wall people, because of the intense, the scrutiny of the media in Chicago is one of the big four markets.
Yeah.
That's something later on in my career, I learned to absolutely love, and didn't realize it at the time, and that's something that we can go through. But as a young player, you're like, oh, I don't think everybody, but understanding that if you don't perform today, right now, we are going to bury you, or whatever, it's going to be written about tomorrow.
Yeah.
And everybody is going to read about your performance.
Yeah.
But being okay with that meant being honest about your outing, and being honest about how you threw the ball. And that wasn't, that's something also that needs to be, implemented in that competitor's mindset.
Yeah.
As opposed to whether it's making excuses or being okay for throwing, the ball like crap, taking ultimate ownership of those outings is something that not only puts the story on the side burner, but it's like, oh, okay, this guy's going to stand behind, his work.
Yeah.
And whether that is in any business or art form that you're doing, you will stand behind your work and take, credit or scrutiny for what you've done. And being in that environment at such a young age set me up for success later on in going into New York and going into Boston and going into LA, and understanding that is where you want to be as a player. Yeah. You don't want to, no offense to Miami, but you don't want to go down to you can be safe down there and you can have plenty of bad outings that nobody's going to care about.
Yeah.
They're not going to care about, if you go down there and you throw 3 innings every start that you go out there. In Chicago, you're not going to last.
Yeah.
In Boston, you're not going to last. In New York, you're not going to last. In LA, you're not going to last.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing, because it pushes you to become a better player.
Ooh.
So, that's the foresight I didn't have. And understanding that, I remember there was a big trade that happened between the Cubs and the Marlins, and it sent a bunch of guys to the Marlins, and I was thinking, man, those guys are so lucky they get to go down there and play carefree and all this stuff. And it was just such a beginner's mindset.
Yeah,
it was
short-sighted.
It was such a terrible way to look at it. And I mean, that's just complete, candid comment right there, because that was where my mindset was at the time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about like, how can I help the Cubs win a World Series? And that is what it is all about, is getting to that postseason, but not only getting to the postseason, but being able to win a World Series and raise a trophy at the end of the day.
Amen.
So again, a lot the journey with all this is begins there. I mean, in a sense of getting that first day and that opportunity of being in the big leagues, and then going into the game. I think I pitched that night, but I was literally crapping down my legs.
Let's go there. First
Yeah,
outing. Take me there.
Ryan Dempster was a closer at the time, and I remember he brought me a cup of water, and I couldn't even hold the cup of water. My hand was shaking so much that the water was spilling out of the cup. And the bullpens were on the field. They were on the field, and I'm like, this is my nightmare scenario. This is my ultimate, like, this is what I couldn't draw it up any worse. And I went to go throw the ball, and all this crap came back. Everything came back. Like the inability to be able to play catch, the inability, like, oh my God, I threw 3 balls to the backstop, clear to the backstop, boom, line drives, better arm then than now. And it just, by the third one, everybody in the stadium, 35,000 people are looking down like, what the hell is going on?
Who's this guy?
So, I went out there and I think I pitched okay. I might have given up a couple runs. I ended up striking out Carlos Delgado. Was my first strikeout. Mike Lowell hit a home run off me in that outing, but the ball went through the basket and into the ivy.
Oh,
and
really?
And a ball from BP came out. So when they threw the ball in, I got the ball that it was a batting practice ball. It was all scuffed up.
Right.
And I'm like, this isn't the game ball.
Yeah.
And, completely like, not at the, like if you flash forward 10 years later, I would have been like, oh yeah, of course this is the game ball. And I would have like thrown it into the stand so nobody would have seen it. And, got a new ball and kept like going like nothing was wrong. But those are the couple things that I remember. And, even going back to like the area code games, like being completely nervous, it was like that same like first time again. So anytime I've definitely done a lot of work and a lot of meditation, whatever you want to call it, to put yourself into, but the scenario or the mindset or the ability to go out there and compete for different things, but for baseball, it got easier the more I did it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you this. There's some amazing names that I just mentioned that were on that roster. Did any vets kind of take you under their wing? You already talked about Maddox a little bit, so we can skip ahead if this is not something, or you've already answered it, but did any of those guys take you under their wing to some degree? And then is that something that later on in your career, you started taking younger guys under your wing, showing them the way?
Yeah, Glennon Rush was a huge influence on me as a young player. Ryan Dempster was a huge influence. Kerry Wood, Michael Barrett. I know I'm leaving somebody out. Mike Remlinger. Having those guys around, and I don't know who else I have to really dust off the old memory bank here, which I'm missing a lot, but those guys really were just being able to watch the way they went about their routines and how they, just the behaviors and conducted themselves and all this stuff. Now, hindsight, I can identify and I can put like a meaning to it. At the time, I was just like, oh, I guess this is, they carry themselves with this kind of confidence and the swagger that I should have. But how do I find it, or what does that look like, or how do you have that conviction behind what you're doing? And years later, understanding it is now knowing that they had to go through their own trials and tribulations of failures and having that where they were at in their career, maybe their 5th or 6th year in the big leagues is not necessarily where you're going to be in your first 3 years.
Yeah.
And I remember Larry Rothschild, our pitching coach, telling us, he's like, it takes guys like 4 years to be comfortable in the big leagues. And I was oh boy, I hope I get there. Because I was not comfortable for my first, and he was right. It was right around like, 2007 was my 3rd year in the big leagues in a sense, and really felt like, okay, this is something that I feel comfortable. You're around more of the guys that you came up with through the minor leagues.
Yeah.
But again, it shouldn't be that way. Uh, and not to say that there is, again, like I said, there's no handbook on grief, but there's no handbook on, how people develop and what the right process is for them to kind of get the player to their to their maximum ability physically and mentally. Because right now we're doing, I think, a good job physically, but mentally in baseball, it's not a very good job because, we want players to be there at 22. We want players to be there at 21. We want them to be there at 23. And it's like the brain's just finished developing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's kind of play this long game and see how guys are at 26 and 27. And continue to feed those players the right, recipes that they need to succeed, mentally. But again, certainly didn't. And going into the 2006 season, I went right back to, complete expectations and got away from all the stuff that I was doing, all the mental work that I was doing as far as being able to prepare myself as I did in 2005 because I thought I figured it out.
Really? Interesting.
Finished the season strong, to my recollection. Went into 2006, and all of a sudden the expectations of, you should make the team. You're going to be one of our 5 starters, and I completely, crapped down my leg the whole spring training.
Really?
But again, that's where a lot of the stuff that I talked about that I didn't, going to see a guy in our area, Mike Boyle, who's a world-renowned strength and conditioning coach, and John Paloff, who was a physical therapist and strength and conditioning coach at the time. In 2008, the winter of 2008, introduced me to functional strength and conditioning. And that's a different chapter, but, had I had that going into 2005, I don't know if there would have been so many hiccups in the road, and it may have been a completely different beginning part of my career than it was.
Interesting. Let's get into some Michael Barrett clips here. This guy is profound when he talks about baseball and pitching and your career. So I'm going to drop some, let's go Michael Barrett teammate to start with here. Come on, Michael Barrett. What we doing? Tell me about what you remember about Rich as a teammate. What stood out? Anything there?
So when he got called up, the first thing, it's hard to imagine. Well, for me, it was hard to imagine then, like the pitching staff that I had, and, with Carlos Zambrano, Greg Maddux, Kerry Wood,
crazy,
Mark Pryor. I mean, all the great arms that I had, that there could be anything closely related to that, right?
Here we go.
And, Rich Hill was not a first round, like top 10 pick,
right?
Like, some of these other guys, so it was like when we got him, I had no idea that we had this guy in our farm system.
Yeah.
The way he kind of made it up through the ranks, and joined us, I'd only heard a little bit about him, but like what we had heard didn't do justice to the kind of the stuff that he really had, to his credit. And I think in a lot of ways, to his detriment, in a way, that he was kind of rushed to the big leagues.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I think his stuff
was so good that they rushed him a little bit.
Yeah, we needed him. We needed him very badly. And I think that given a little bit of time in the minor leagues, just like a lot of us, I think, myself even included in that. So I don't want to sound like I'm judging him harshly or anything. I'm stating facts. That there are guys that spent a little bit longer time in the minor leagues with just as good of stuff to kind of polish, their game. I think Rich would be one of the first ones to even tell you that, when he came up, he was really kind of a two-pitch pitcher, and he kind of learned how to throw a third, fourth, really good third, fourth pitch in the big leagues. And that's not easy to do, you know.
I think that's a fascinating take there. Do you got anything?
Pretty dead on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's something that, looking back on it, being able to see where, obviously everybody's like, oh, I want to get to the big leagues now, but be careful what you wish for, because it is a, shark tank when you get up there, and not understanding that, and understanding how to handle yourself, or all the stuff that I've, kind of gone through with the gauntlet of success, failure. Where's the bathroom in every major league stadium? You don't even know the landscape of what's going on until you actually go through it and get there. But again, yeah, I didn't have a feel for, and one thing that I will say as of the last couple of years, which has been great for baseball, is that they've taken the Major League Baseball and they've put it in AAA. Now, AAA players are using now, this sounds like a very small, minor detail, and
Sure.
fans will say like, well, what is that? Who cares? What baseball they use. It does matter. It's completely different. So I compare the Major League Baseball to, if you play golf, it would be like playing with blades. And if you know that playing golf, when you play golf, if you play with blades, you have to hit the ball completely dead in the center of the club to be able to get the ball to do what you want, or to be able to have any control with the golf ball.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what throwing a Major League Baseball is like. It's like playing with blades in golf. And every time you throw or execute, you have to execute the pitch exactly out in front, as opposed to if you're a little bit behind it, that's going to hang severely. If you don't finish your fastball out front, it's just going to carry and stay up. If you can't get on top of the baseball and throw it at an angle, if you can't come across your two seamer, or pronate your two seamer exactly correctly out front, you're not going to get the run, you're not going to get the sink that you want if you don't throw your changeup again out front and finish it out front, you're not going to get the movement that you want on it. With a minor league baseball, you can throw a curveball from back here and get it to spin and fall in for a strike.
Really?
Now, when I get to the big leagues, I threw a curveball from back here, go to the backstop.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Because it would just come out and it would just spin. It would spin up here and never come down.
Really?
It's also, the same theory that goes into pitching in Coors Field. When you pitch in Coors Field, everything, if you're pitching in Baltimore, it's going to be completely different than pitching in Coors Field. If you're pitching in Chicago, if you're pitching in Seattle, where you get a little bit heavier air, and a little bit warmer weather, but especially during the summer. But if you want to have success in consistency, with Major League Baseballs, you have to execute your pitches out front. And
there we go.
To Michael's point, that was something that probably I had so much success in that 2005 year, in AA, and then going into AAA. I think my first game that I pitched in AAA, I struck out, 14 guys or something like that. And it just all kind of came pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But again, you're not in a position to say no, and you're not going to say no as a player. That's your dream. That's what every kid wants to do, is play in the big leagues.
Right.
And, I went up there and jumped into the ring with heavyweights, and my hands tied behind my back, because, mentally I had my hands tied behind my back, and I got the shit kicked out of me. So that was not like, that wasn't something that I was prepared for, but I learned from it and I took notes, and I was able to build off of that. And again, the adversity that the game taught me was something that led to my persistence and kind of that attitude that helped me have a long career.
Oh man, beautifully put. I have a lot more for you. Is it possible that we could get a couple more sessions in? This has been so amazing, and you got obviously so much baseball coming out of you. Is that possible?
Oh, absolutely. That's what
Okay.
I was planning on that anyway.
Cool.
We haven't even touched upon, like going to independent ball or Brian Bannister or,
There's lots ahead. Yeah.
I think also with like going into pitching out of the bullpen for 5 years and the opportunity to after my shoulder surgery in 2009, I think there's a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is the beginning and the Cubs and stuff like that, but
okay,
I mean 95% of my career was after the Cubs, and I think a lot of that stems from again a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, but shoulder surgery, which led to going to the St. Louis Cardinals, which led to going into the bullpen, which led to taking my first out, which basically I was leaving a team, which I had no idea, which brought me to the Red Sox, and then from there it was kind of a mess for 5 years, and then a lot of stuff like even off of the field, stuff that happened, and getting into the opportunity to go to Long Island and making that decision and signing with the Red Sox again.
What a journey, man!
And then going to Oakland and LA, and then in the 2020s it was kind of it was interesting, but I think a lot of the meat and potatoes are the beginning and kind of the middle, I think. Kind of a resurgence of something that could have been the whole thing, but I don't really look at it that way because there was just so much to be learned, and wasn't ready for it when I was younger.
That's beautiful. Anyway. There's an entity on social media called the Hall of Really Good or the Hall of Good. Are you aware of that? Yeah. If you were elected, I think they actually have put you in that.
They did. I told them I'd have a speech coming at some point, but I haven't retired.
So what hat would you wear if you were inducted into the Hall of Very Good or Good?
I don't know. That's funny because that would be a tough one. If I had to pick one, I think a lot of people, remember me playing for the Dodgers just because of the success that we had and going into the postseasons, but it would be between LA and Boston just because, Boston was always, it's home, always gave me opportunities to come back. And I thought that was, I'll obviously be grateful for all the opportunities that they gave me and the platform to be able to use here in Boston. So
okay, I'm with it. Let's round out our last 20 minutes here with some Michael Barrett stuff. And again, he was profound with his take. So let's go stuff to start with. Here we go.
So, like a lot of guys, you kind of figure out, how they got to be successful, getting to the major leagues. Rich Hill instantly, you knew that he was considered as good as he was because of his breaking ball. That was obviously his his out pitch. That was his pitch that got him back into counts, but it was also a pitch that not a lot of umpires saw. It was a big 12-6 curveball. Yeah. And it wasn't something that you saw on a daily basis, and umpires would miss it a lot.
Really?
I mean, you had to catch it really, deep in the zone. A lot of times you had to go get it. Like, it was not an easy pitch to catch and frame and make look good. And the umpires, a lot of times, there would be times where he would throw it right over the middle of the plate, and they would just miss it because it was such a big 12-6er.
Yeah.
And it was a power breaking ball, curve ball, as good as any left-handed breaking ball I had ever seen.
Really?
As a catcher. And I was still kind of young myself, but I'd caught some good left-handed pitchers and some good left-handed breaking balls. Joey Eishen a guy in Montreal, had a really good breaking ball.
Yeah.
But nothing like the reverse Kerry Wood version. You know, it was like it's hard to compare anything like Kerry Wood's breaking ball to anybody, but it wasn't an exact mirror image of it, but it was a power breaking ball, 12-6 hammer.
I don't know if I've ever heard a catcher say that a pitch was so sharp that umpires missed it. Is that something that you were aware of during your career? You felt like there were misses sometimes because of how big it was?
I think so. I think because it broke twice. It got, and this is obviously coming from hitters. Michael telling me this, and catchers telling me this, and hitters telling me this. It's like it comes in, it breaks, and then it breaks again. It's like you see it break, you give up. You're like, oh, it's going to be a ball, and you give up on it, and then all of a sudden it breaks again. It's got like 2-tier break to it. It's got
fascinating.
It gained RPMs as it got closer to the plate. So, and Michael's right, being able to, Austin Barnes did an incredible job at this, is being able to sit back and catch the ball, really deep and trust that it was going to break and it was going to be there.
Yeah.
And Michael's right. That's exactly, and not really knowing that until probably 5 years or 6, maybe even 10 years after I had played with the Cubs, hearing this from players, from other catchers and position players, because there was that time where I dropped down and I went into the bullpen and, didn't even really throw over the top, because after I had shoulder surgery in 2009, it hurt too much to do that. And I wasn't strong enough to do that. But that's where, going to Mike Reinhold, who was with the Boston Red Sox at the time, invited me in to work out and do shoulder program with him every single day, pretty much. I think we did it 3 days a week in the off season 2010. And, in combination with Reinhold, Boyle, and Paloff, like those guys had a massive instrument, part of building my putting the programs in place for me to do the work, to understand what it meant to have a comprehensive shoulder program, what it meant to be functionally strong. And without that, obviously there's many parts that come into this career, but that was something, again, I'm building the bridge to what Michael was talking about, the curveball as it was when he saw it when I was younger, to then understanding it 5 years after I kind of got thrown into the washing machine and put into the bullpen because of necessity and survival. In survival in a good way, not survival in, well, I hope this goes well, because in that 2010 season, that's when things started to change psychologically.
Yeah.
And being able to understand that when I went out there to compete, it was just a great feeling. It's an incredible feeling to be able to go out there. And that, a lot of guys talk about, what do you miss most about playing? Like getting that feeling of competing and understanding what that means. That to me, it's not the number one thing that I miss, but it's damn close. I mean, it's so close.
Oh man, that's so cool. Oh man. All right, let's go. This next one is called Charlie. Here we go. Where would you rank it? I mean, amongst the guys that you caught, would you rank it as the best lefty breaking ball that you?
It would have to be him, and Sean Marshall had the best 12-6 breaking balls. They were different styles. Both of them coming up through the minor leagues and they're making their major league debuts. They were very similar in a lot of ways.
Okay.
Rich was a little bit, his was a little bit sharper.
Okay.
Whereas Sean Marshall probably had a little bit better command.
Okay.
But they were both power breaking ball pitchers. Like and Rich's breaking ball was like his strike pitch. Like that was the crazy part, was like I'd be calling his game, and I would Larry Rothschild, our pitching coach, would have to remind me, hey, don't forget that his breaking ball is the pitch that gets him back into counts. So you'd be like 3-0, and you'd be like, is this when you put it down? And he would throw it for a strike, and you'd be like, how did he just do that? You know,
dude, that's fascinating what you said. What you're telling me is that it was so good and bit so hard that sometimes umpires missed it. Is that what you're telling me?
All the time.
Crazy.
All the time. Yeah. It was hard. It was frustrating for him. I think early on, I think there were probably, when he had Sean Marshall and him coming up, I think umpires, when they see pitches over and over again, it's like they get better at calling it the more they see it.
Sure.
But it was the left-handed breaking ball, and I mean, it wasn't something that umpires saw on a daily basis. So when they saw it, it would take them a good couple of pitches. And then sometimes in Rich's case, and a couple of those times, those are big key moments when you need that pitch, especially like as lefties. Lefties overall are such feel guys.
Mm-hmm.
They got to feel their pitches. They got to feel. Some righties are like that, but not all righties are like that. Some righties can just fight through it and throw, whereas lefties, like, if they're not feeling it, it's frustrating for them, and they won't make it through an inning. You
got anything?
Yeah, no, that's Sean could throw his consistently for strikes, and I was trying to figure out how to execute it for strikes. That was definitely right on by Michael, but that's, again, it's all the development part of it, and understanding the strength aspect, and I'm going to keep going back to the mental aspect of it, and how these all kind of come together, and being able to have somebody like Alan Dunn, who pushes you as a competitor and understands that every time you go to throw a bullpen, that's how you should be. How you practice is how you're going to play.
Yep.
And picking up on that, and then losing that, and then having to figure out how to get back there again. And then all of a sudden, you're on the backfield in Fort Myers, and you're having a live BP against some kids that just signed in the draft, and you're rehabbing, and you're out there, yelling and screaming without anybody out there except for you and the pitching coach and 4 other kids that are taking batting practice, and they're like, what the hell is going on? It's like, you flash forward to that, and then it's just, that's the, if you talk to any of those guys that, a pitching coach that I had, or somebody that said, like, what was he like during a bullpen or a live BP after 2015, those are the stories that you're going to get. I believe, because it was like, I'm, again, not going back to dipping my toe in the water. I'm jumping in, full cannonball, and this is what you're getting every single time. And as Rhino kind of described the description of it, it was probably there in spurts, but it wasn't there directed in the right fashion. Mm-hmm. It wasn't directed towards, I could go out, and after 2015, I could go out and lose a game, and be disappointed about the loss, but be okay with the way that I threw the ball.
Yeah.
In 2005, I'd be disappointed about the loss because I didn't know how I threw the ball.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like it had nothing to do with how the ball came out of my hand. It all was about outcome. And that's the one thing that, is a little bit, is great, because I was able to survive and figure out why, guys are successful, and some guys get it when they're younger, and they never let it go, and they hold on to it, and they understand what that is. I feel fortunate that I was able to figure it out, have it, lose it, and get back to it, and really own it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say Michael's assessment on the breaking ball is dead on. Yeah,
that's cool. That's cool. We got a couple more Michael Barretts, and that'll round us out for the day. The next one is called Buckle. Do you remember him buckling guys? Was it that sharp when he was doing that to big league guys?
Oh yeah. He definitely buckled. He would buckle a lot of guys. The biggest thing was getting to that pitch after the the word was out on him, that the breaking ball, his fastball command was early in his career. His fastball command was okay. It wasn't great.
Right.
I mean, he could spot his fastball as good as a lot of young left-hand pitchers. Don't get me wrong. But really, the breaking ball, the command of his breaking ball, the things that he could do with that breaking ball were what separated him from some of the best pitchers in the game.
Yep.
If he could get to a point where he could, throw that pitch, when he was ahead in the count, that was the key. He was like, how do we get strike one? Because after a while, it's like the hitters would go up there. They weren't necessarily looking for it, but you knew that they were thinking if they could fight that pitch off, one more pitch meant, maybe opening the door to something else.
Sure. And then I'm going to play this one, and then we'll comment here. This is your growth as a pitcher.
Yeah, I think that, like it was fun for me to watch him kind of grow, and and I think he had so many people like against him early on that it kind of fueled him, toward the end as well. Like I remember being with the Washington Nationals, and he was in the process of kind of reinventing himself, asking me what he should do, and I just told him never to give up on starting. The biggest thing, like you can go in and be, it's really tough on lefties to be brought out of the bullpen, especially if they have experience starting. It's really hard for them to go into the bullpen because there's so much stress on throwing strikes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a starting pitcher, you have time to get a feel for your pitches sometimes. And then like if you're a guy like Rich Hill, you can strike your way out of the inning, and you can live to see another inning. For me, it was to see him kind of grind back into the starting rotation is a credit to his true character.
Oh, I love that.
That was not easy for him, and he did it. And I kept telling him, like, you got to keep fighting to get back into the starting rotation. I don't know if he remembers that conversation with the Washington, asking me, what I thought, what my thoughts were. He could drop down, he could stay in the bullpen, he could do all these things. And I just kept telling him, like, as a left-hander, you want to continue to like fight to stay in the rotation as a spot starter or whatever you got to do. Because once you get into the bullpen, it's really difficult. It's really difficult for field pitchers. And then if you come in and you walk a guy, you're done. A lot of managers, Dusty Baker was not notorious for that if you came in, you could throw strikes. You weren't gonna make it very long as a reliever with him.
Yep.
And so, that was my concern with Rich and for Rich was, as a lot of lefties that are field pitchers, they get stuck in that role in the bullpen and they can't cut it, and my wishes and my hopes for Rich were that he could get back and get back to being that power pitcher and finish his career kind of the way he did, and even better.
That's so cool that you guys both remembered that conversation and how powerful that was.
Yeah, it was big. I'm gonna, I'm like 90% sure that we were in Georgia, and we're in Gwinnett. I think that's where the Braves AAA maybe was, and he was the catching coordinator at the time, and having that conversation with him. But it was like I was in the abyss. You're out there in AAA at 30. Oh, how old would I have been? 35. Right, I think. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, 35 going on, 18. I felt like I was still super young. I didn't have this idea that there was an end to playing this game, and having that conversation with him, like, what the hell am I going to do? Like, I feel like I'm stuck. And he was saying, you got to get back into starting. And I'm like, okay, that's easier said than done. Like in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I would love to. I'd love to get that opportunity. But I've already, when I went into the bullpen in 2010, it wasn't like I was okay with that, because I was like, I didn't know another avenue or another road to take to get back into starting. Because once you were kind of like labeled as something, you were labeled. There was no opportunity for you to come back and get that opportunity to start again. And that's true to this day too, I believe. I think guys, they I don't want to say they, but like, what's the option for a player that has gone through injury that is not built up to be a starter again to get back into starting? And, fortunately for me, I was able to get into independent ball and go to Long Island and start with the Long Island Ducks. And that was such a great opportunity to be able to get me back into starting. And then the opportunity again with the Red Sox. And yeah, you need luck. Things have to go your way, like as far as like not luck and like, wow, that guy, if a guy goes out there and he's averaging, exit velos on every ball that's hit over 105 miles an hour, and getting outs, that's not luck. Eventually that is going to turn. It's opportunities where, hey, we had an injury, we need a starting pitcher, going back to the phone calls with Michael and with Ryan, with Demp and Michael Barrett about, what do I do? And call everybody, exhaust your phone book, call everybody. And I was like, it was almost like coming from that upbringing, or like, oh, don't ask for, but don't be persistent in a sense of, it was like that Irish Catholic guilt, I would settle in, and it's like, well, I don't want to ask for anything because, you don't deserve it kind of mindset, as opposed to like, forget about all that crap. Go, you of course, everybody deserves everything, go get it. And those were really cool phone calls that I had with those guys, and that goes back to 2015, that kind of springboarded everything for the next 11 years, which is crazy to think about. I mean, we're sitting here today and I just played last year with Kansas City. But that doesn't come around if I don't have those phone calls in 2015, because I'm not calling people like, I can pitch, I want to pitch, but with a different mentality, a different mindset that built from 2010 to present day. So, Michael was absolutely right about getting back into starting. A lot of that stuff wouldn't have happened if my shoulder, going back to even who did my shoulder surgery, Dr. Yoakum, who was one of the lead orthopedic doctors at Curl and Job Clinic out in Los Angeles, did my shoulder surgery in 2009. And he said, had another orthopedic surgeon who didn't have the same eyes as he did and had seen so many shoulders as he has seen, maybe would have put anchors in your shoulder and would have changed the path of your career. He goes, I didn't see it as that. You had a little bit of fraying. I did a debridement and cleaned it up, and now it's on you to go out and, get strong and get ready to, continue on to pitch. So what I mean by that is, like, it's even relevant to what we're seeing now in baseball. We're devaluing the eyes of experience. And we're, giving all this credit to analytics, which deserves its place. But when you start separating yourself and not being able to have the experience of the eyes of veterans and baseball people, it just pushes more for the envelope of entertainment and not for the purity of the game, and not for why I still believe most people go to a ballpark is to watch that level of play come out of the players, but also being able to be afforded, that perfect game, or being able to be afforded that no-hitter, or grinding through a hamstring pull for that fourth at bat in the last inning for a single to finish the cycle. everybody's so quick to move on or pull the plug from history. And
man.
That's not what, we're seeing, or that's what we're seeing now. And we're not seeing the availability of the eyes of the veterans.
Yeah, man. Absolute. You're dropping so much knowledge, my brother. This has been amazing. We're right at about 2 hours here, so I think this would be a great place for us to cut it. This will be the Rich Hill story part 2. And then you've already said that you're open. We got so much more to go. So this has been so beautiful, and you have been just incredible, man. I really appreciate your time. I'm going to go ahead and stop it right there. This is the Rich Hill story part 2. You got anything to say before we get out of here?
No, just thank you for,
all right, brother,
having me on.
This has been so cool. All right, I'm going to cut it right here. All right, buddy.